Live. And apparently we are live. Let's jump straight into this. So, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dating Coach panel. Today we have a special theme, sex techniques and sex advice. Not every question is applicable to every panelist that we're going to have here, as we have some specialized questions lined up, different topics, and so on. It really depends on what you're into and what you specialize in, but we got an incredible range of related topics and stuff to go through today. Drop a super chat to ask a question, $5 USD or more, increasing as we go on. Questions for all panelists are prioritized. Where are you guys joining us from? Johnny?
I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of all the sins, apparently, although I can't seem to find anything that I'm doing sinful.
It's all just relative. And Justin, where are you calling in from?
Yeah, I'm calling you guys from New York City.
See, another place that really shouldn't have clocks. It doesn't need them.
No,
I
we're
don't know.
always ahead of time anyways.
Marcus, where are you calling in from?
Chicago, my man. In the
Shit.
States for a couple of weeks. So join it here, man.
Finally, it's not 6 a.m. for you. What a crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. I appreciate the time zone for once in my life. So thank you.
Now you how strange does it feel to finally feel normal as an Australian in a good
Normal.
time
Is
zone?
that what we're calling it? Mate, we are the right time zone, okay? You motherfuckers are behind us. All right. Get with the times. All right.
You're with the
Catch up.
Chinese.
Yeah,
Okay, fair enough.
something like
You're with the majority of the population. It's just like we're too far west. Anyway, I want to get a feel for what kinds of things you guys can discuss around this topic. So I just want to see who's into foreplay.
Uh,
Well, I'd say all of us
I
probably.
think that should be everyone.
I was about to say, I would think that everyone on this panel understands that you can't just throw the turkey in the oven, you have to preheat it, and that there's an awful lot more to having sex and engaging in sex and being sexual and being memorable than just pleasing yourself in the immediate term. But I suppose it depends on what constitutes foreplay.
We're going to get into that later. Who's into choking?
Wait a second.
Probably everybody.
Intentionally or accidentally?
Yes.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll get into that later.
I'm
Who's
working
into
on my force choke. Still developing it, but without the touchless choke, I'm working on it.
Yeah, my faith shouldn't be disturbing. But I'm faith.
the Darth Vader choke? Who's into BDSM?
Yes, that would be me as well.
Who's into shibari?
No, I don't have the patience for it. I respect it. I like looking at it. Love photographs, like those artful black and white. Love that shit. But man, I don't have the patience to sit there and play Boy Scout for a half an hour.
Yeah, I did my time.
A lot of sense.
I did my time as a sailor learning knots, and to be honest, well, I'll give you an answer that's actually worth pointing out. I can't handle being tied up. I'm not quite claustrophobic, but feeling constrained is something that makes me very uncomfortable. And so while I can do the knot work and as a service top, I can do shibari work, it doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't make me feel good. So I'll only ever do it if my partner communicates that they would like it. I can do it for show, but I wouldn't do it in the bedroom.
Alrighty, we're going to get into that a little later. Now let's jump into the first solid question and spend a good few minutes on how do you build sexual tension before even getting to the bedroom?
Does anyone want to pick this up?
Go ahead, Johnny. Yeah, take it.
All right, let's start with some things that are critical. Before you can start with having sexual tension when you know that you're going to be having sex, you ought to be broadcasting your sense of self-acceptance and self-comfort, which should be inspirational to the women who are paying attention to you. In other words, your innate masculinity, your willingness to take control, make decisions, and lead will already be arousing to the sorts of women that you're going to meet, so that when you look at them straight in the eye with comfort and confidence and you tell them what you have in mind or where we're going to go or whichever. When you lead, they should be happily deferring to your leadership. It shouldn't be, where are we going? It's more, where are you taking me? In her mind, she has to have made the choice to follow your lead, at least when you're getting to the point where you're going to be engaging in some sort of sexual thing. So building sexual tension with women usually takes the form of they're grabbing onto the rope that you've left out for them, and you're constantly belaying rope. Okay, to anyone who wants to grab onto it, it's part of the part of your innate culture of communication with people that you might find interesting. You're constantly laying out through a flirty kind of conversational style and a comfort in yourself that if you'd like to know more, grab hold of the rope and follow. So as soon as you start to establish the relationship between yourself and the other person, and it becomes clear that they're interested, you want to maintain their interest. So you keep the tension by making it clear that you know what you're doing and you know where you're going. Most important, you shouldn't be asking them questions like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Right? Once you've decided you're leading them to a bedroom or to a place where you're going to make out, or you walk them to where you're going, leading slightly, holding their hand and having them struggle a little bit to keep up, then you can stop, push them up against a wall and kiss them, which sends all sorts of excitement vibes to their mind, and say, shh, we've got to be quick about this, even though there's no reason to be. Then rush them on to the next place, always demonstrating that they are being pulled along by you. Almost every woman I've ever known wants the man to take the lead. She wants the man to know what he's doing and to be willing to put her into the situations and places she wants to be. Is there anyone here who has not experienced this, guys? I see you all switched your mics off, so, but
Yeah, sorry, I had motorcycles going by in the background.
yeah, that also helps.
Yes, but no, I absolutely agree. My feelings on the matter is I don't try to create it. I keep my eye out for its presence already. So
Right.
in my world, I only deal with full on, full tilt, high sexual interest women. I'm not interested in taking a low level to turn into a medium and into a high, or a medium into a high. I don't waste my time with any of that. It's either a 100% yes or nothing at all. And the reason being is that once that's there, like I have a saying within my school that wherever there is a location of desire, that automatically becomes a leverage point.
Mhm.
So this is with sex, this is with business dealings, this is with anything where whoever is desiring and the person who has that which is desired, that person now has leverage.
I think I've read
And
about that in The Art of the Deal.
right. It's the same idea. And so the trick of it, and where I find the most fun, is when you lengthen the lever, right? And make things easier and easier. And you do that through creating tension. And tension is often created through extension of time. So it's a balance of keeping that tension and stringing out the time and pulling it longer and longer and longer. And the idea that they're going to get something, they're going to earn something or what have you. But when that's going to happen, who knows? Maybe it won't ever happen. And that really, really drives up. But all the while, you're still tickling whatever that part in their mind is where you found that leverage point, and you can keep it going indefinitely. And they never get satisfaction ever. And just the arousal just keeps getting higher and higher and higher and higher, like practically indefinitely.
Well, as long as you're prepared to provide them with that satisfaction at some point, once they convince you to go to a bedroom or wherever.
Now they would have to prove it, but we all have our standards.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to this. There's the first part where you need sexual attraction. That's what is going to leverage all of this tension. You can't simply pull away if there's nothing coming towards you, right? It's so the first step is going to be creating some value there. Now, obviously, if we're talking about sex, I think the greatest thing here is to create some sexual value. One way to do that is to show sexual experience, is to explore the girl's kinks, is to find out what she wants. If you can open up a communication channel there where she has an expectation of what she's going to get, that's going to create a lot of tension. So if she knows, okay, we just spoke about shibari a second ago. If the girl's fantasy is always being to tie up, you find that out and then you tell her, listen, you were going to look so fucking sexy in my red robe. I can already see it. That builds tension. And going back to what Justin said, now you need to figure out how far you're going to take that. So I use an arbitrary number, like sit around 80%. You don't want to be the guy that now says, oh my God, I can't wait, let's go right now. The girl kind of feels this is a bit needy. She doesn't like it. There's nothing to chase there. Or you're the guy that has a bit of an ego and completely holds back. And now you're like, oh, I don't really even know if I want this. And then the girl, again, she's scared of rejection and she doesn't show any interest either. So you find that sweet spot. I say 80%, but whatever. You find out where the girl is still chasing at that level. You create the attraction. You bake the fantasies, and that's going to create all the tension you need.
And terrific.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
absolutely.
Any other comments on this?
Well, okay, if we want to actually answer the question a little further, I'd like to say a couple of things. I think everything that's been said is brilliant. When you have someone who you know is going to come to the bedroom with you, or to wherever it is you're going to be having your sexual action, to ensure the sexual tension is high, it's vital. We've all communicated the same thing, which is the person who is being led must be confident that the person who is leading is enthusiastic but not eager. Okay? It's not a puppy dog desperate to get you into the bedroom and satisfy himself. He's someone who is gladly taking you on an adventure. This is the mind frame of the woman. She has to understand she's being led to something that she would enjoy. And so she must follow willingly. In the world of power exchange and BDSM and such, it's not about pain, it's not about humiliation, it's about intensity. Keeping the intensity high. And you keep intensity high by taking a person out of the mundane where they're operating entirely on habit and take them into the world where they're operating on intention, where they've decided they're after something. They want to attain that something. In this case, what they want to attain is both the satisfaction of having a good time, which is the driving influence for all women in my experience. They want to have a good time. And they don't necessarily know what a good time looks like. They just know that they're probably going to have the best time if someone is taking them on an adventure. So once they relegate themselves to that they're going to be taken somewhere by you, you have to make sure that you're always in the leadership role, which is to say, they must always understand that they have to hang on. You're taking them on this ride. That's where the tension will come from, that you're going to be doing what you're going to be doing, and they have to follow suit. Does that make sense to you guys?
Oh, yeah. And if not,
Then they get left behind.
right, they're dismissed.
It's critical that it's critical that the woman understands that though you're being a gentleman and opening the door for her, you're also putting your arm around her back and helping her through. That while you're leading, you're controlling the frame. You're making the choices. You're checking in with her to make sure that she's following. But if she isn't following, you're still going to keep going. She has to recognize she has to keep up. That she's not actually the one in control. Because if she won't choose to put herself in your hands, then the experience is going to be one in which she will not believe she's going to be thrilled. There's a wonderful thing I've learned about women, if I may. Every woman knows upon her first encounter with a man that she finds interesting. And by the way, I speak for the vast majority of men who foolishly imagine that they need to be attractive to get girls. Being attractive is a nice thing, but being particularly attractive will get you at most about 60 seconds of attention from a new girl. The truth of the matter is, after 60 seconds of interaction, she'll have made up her mind whether or not there's something there worth pursuing or not. It's much more important than to be attractive, to be arousing. A man who loves himself and respects himself, who leads because he has some idea where he'd like to be, who is comfortable having someone follow him, but also comfortable with going on his own, who loves and appreciates and treasures women, is going to have an endless number of women paying attention to him because he is fundamentally arousing. His lack of self-doubt, his lack of need for validation and affirmation from other people will make him very arousing. A pimp who's peacocking to the nines, completely over the top in outrageous outfits, purples and deep velvet blues and orange shirts and things like this, gets attention because he's prepared to say, I don't give a fuck about the people who are going to stare. I'm happy that they're staring. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if you come along, we're going to have fun. It's going to be a good time. This is not a requirement for you to be an arousing man in the world to be over the top or ridiculous. In fact, the arousal comes from the other person's recognizing you own your shit. You are you. You figured out what you like. You're leading. And if they follow along, they're going to have a good time. So, for women, the problem domain is, overwhelmingly, if asked, most women will say, most men don't give a shit about whether a woman has a good time in bed. And I've done this test many, many times with literally more than 1,000 respondents, asking them individually, do you believe that most men are interested in whether you have a good time? And overwhelmingly, the answer has been no, because women don't understand one of the major faults that we have in our culture, pretty much worldwide, which is that despite what Justin said about having a woman open up and communicate, and what Markus said about making sure that people's interests and enthusiasms are well understood and on the table, most women are mortified by the idea of a man's understanding that they are sexual. Most women are mortified by the idea of outing themselves as knowing what they like, because they fear that if a man thinks they know what they like, then the man's going to think that they're easy to use. The man's going to be able to get something from them for nothing.
Or Johnny will judge the shit out of them.
Precisely. The judgment comes in. Almost every woman dreads the idea of being described as a slut. Not being described as a slut by men. That just means that those are men she's never going to hook up with. Being described as a slut by another woman means she's essentially being branded as a traitor to her gender. She's violating the sexual cartel under which women are all raised to understand that if they give away the milk, no one will buy the cow, and therefore, if they're a slut, they aren't desirable. Men have been raised by other men to believe the only thing worth having is something that costs them a lot. And so, for women, a woman who's called a slut by a man, when it's not in a sexual play, she knows that the man imagines she's going to be easy to use. And nobody healthy wants to feel used. Everyone wants to feel appreciated, respected. They want to feel that other people value them. So anyone who thinks they can use you clearly doesn't value you. No woman wants to go to bed with a man after the fact, have him not answer her calls or not call her back, not follow up, because then she feels used. Similarly, no man wants to feel used. He doesn't want to spend a bunch of money, take her out a bunch of places, buy a bunch of things for her, have her invite her friends over and have them spend his money. No man wants to end up spending a bunch of time with a woman who doesn't give him the satisfaction of paying attention to him all the way into the bedroom. So, of course, men don't want to feel used, women don't want to feel used, but the big problem is there's so little communication between people and so much pre-programming in which women are under the impression that a man will feel he can use them because they are too slutty if they appear too easy. So I have a concept I'd like to share with you. I call it Marx's paradox, named for the brilliant American philosopher Groucho Marx, the only Marx I've ever been able to stand. Groucho Marx said, "I'd never belong to a club that would have me as a member. For some reason, no man imagines I'd never have a friend foolish enough to trust me. I'd never have a friend dumb enough to have a guy like me as their friend. I'd never work for a boss stupid enough to hire a guy like me. But for some reason, men go through life with this idea, I'd never want to hook up with a girl who'd go to bed with a guy like me. Men go through their lives imagining that if a girl likes them enough to make up their mind and go to bed with them on the first date, she's too easy. Men are
Yep.
crazy. We imagine that women are, by design, not able to make up their minds and need to be persuaded. We need to fool them into believing we're better than we are, because if they saw us the way we actually are, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with us.
Of course, it always goes down to self-rejection, self-perception, self-belief, lack of
Right.
groundedness. And also, I would say just a lack of exposure to enough women, because that, I think those are all beliefs, what you're talking about. And beliefs are in place of fact, right? When you have facts, you no longer have to have beliefs. So the thing is that when people talk like that, it reveals them. When guys talk about these things and they have these generalized criticisms about how women are, it just shows that they haven't much experience with women.
For sure. Actually, I wanted to see if you could see what it says on my shirt, just in context of what you had just said.
Ah,
Facts.
yes, yeah, facts. Nice. Yeah, but there's something I wanted to jump in real quick about that. Fast, no lead up, no ramping, no seduction, no foreplay type of fucking. And you said, most women, they don't like this. There are times when that actually is great.
Oh,
And it's with a
no
certain
question.
type of woman. Yeah, there's like a certain type of girl in a certain type of mood or whatever. And they just like, you know what? I just want to be fucking used like quickly and without remorse.
I agree
And it's
completely.
like, I don't care about the foreplay. I'm not interested. Like, just quickly use me, you know? And granted, that's not the norm. That's not super common, like within their own sort of thing. And it might have to do with like, where they
It's
are on their cycle, that sort
it's
of thing. But
estrus. It's estrus. It's
yeah,
ovulation. But
yeah,
and in the old days, we used to call it getting lucky when you happen to meet up with a woman who was in that space just a few days before she was going to ovulate, and her brain was saying, "Must harvest sperm." Right? And you can go shopping for that. For most of my sexual career as a younger man, knowing that I wasn't attractive looking, I've never been a handsome guy, there have been few women who've ever described me as attractive until after they've been to bed with me and they're telling their girlfriends about me. They tell me I'm gorgeous. They tell them I'm sexy and gorgeous, whatever, because once they've gotten to know me and they've recognized that I can deliver the goods, in their brain, they remodel what sexy looks like to include me. Okay? And this is something every Asian discovers when he's dating in the world of white women or even African, black women. A girl will go, "Oh, I couldn't never date a guy like that." And then once she's met a guy and does end up going to bed with him, if he can deliver the goods and provide a good time, suddenly she's now open to an entirely new type of person. Okay?
sure.
And the
What I
funniest
like to
bit,
do is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what I
no,
like to
no,
do is extend that. Um, like I'm trying to extend the amount of time to bring that interest to the point where you're talking, right? To get to that same result with longer amounts of time of me actually touching her.
sure,
So it's I understand that it's easy to get that confirmation of belief once the impact, the emotional and physical impact of having a sexual experience with a guy, right? Like that I get. And that's pretty easy, right? For all of us on the panel, that's probably pretty easy to achieve. But what I'm trying to do is how can I get the same result without actually even touching her. I like touching her without touching her, and get the same type of reverence and desire and lust without ever having laid a finger on her, and trying to
Absolutely.
extend that as far as I possibly can until it snaps, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, that person has this amount of time with, and I think that in order to like really understand stuff, just like any scientist would or whatever, you go into it knowing that you're going to break some eggs, and that's just the way it goes. But for the sake of learning a broader lesson, and I've messed things up, and just say, oh well, I guess that's the result of playing around this way.
100%. I agree with you completely. In fact, what you were saying first, I'd like to comment on this in two parts. Let me just first make my joke, which is whenever I'm designing a bridge, first thing I do is I fill up trucks with greater and greater quantities of mass and run them over the bridge until the bridge collapses. Then I know what to put on the sign as the maximum when we rebuild the bridge exactly as it was. Um,
Yeah, that's
and,
kind of in line with what I'm talking about.
but but on a more serious level, absolutely, a woman will feel your contact and your touch. When you're talking about building sexual tension, a woman will, in her mind, acknowledge that she is being touched by you, that she is with you, she is engaged with you, and the engagement touches in her brain exactly the same places that would be touched if you were touching on her body. She can be, by a talented enough speaker, she can be led to an absolute, genuine, real body orgasm without ever being physically touched at all
Mhm.
and without needing to touch herself. Okay? Women are pretty remarkable. If you uh, if you know what you're doing and you can make them comfortable enough in things, you can happily guide them to a place where they will consistently get off giving you blowjobs, for example. Um, or they
Oh yeah,
can,
yeah. Like a lot of girls don't realize there's a magic button in the back of their throat.
well, I like to say that
They-
because it justifies their going further and further, but it doesn't even need to be a physical. There isn't really a physical connection. It's sort of like the downshift in your car. If you're driving an automatic, you can imagine that if you push hard enough on the pedal, it pushes a button that causes the motor to switch. But it doesn't actually need to have the button. It's just a vacuum advance. Anyway, the point I was getting to, absolutely, a woman should feel you in a palpable and sexual and almost visceral way. She should feel your connection, your closeness, even when you're at a distance, or even on the phone, or even just reading a note you've sent to her. So, building sexual tension isn't something that has to precede a particular sexual act, nor does it end after you've had the sex. There's plenty of sexual tension with women who've been to bed with me 50 times, knowing that we're going to be seeing each other again this next week when they happen to be coming to town or that I'm going to be in their town. And the sexual tension builds not just because, ooh, I'm going to get to be with Johnny and he knows all the right things to do to get me off, but because they know that I'm thinking about it, that I'm planning for it, that it's using a lot of my brain cycles to be and imagining what's going to happen, and that causes their brain to drift away into fantasy, always reinstilling me into their imagination. So here's a funny fact. About 1999, a television show became very popular on American TV and internationally over the next year or so called The Sopranos. And the lead character on The Sopranos looked so much like I did when I didn't have a beard and when I dressed more or less like he did that women would mistake me for him. People on the street would ask me for his autograph and all sorts of things. Now, the thing is, the guy who was the lead character on The Sopranos was not an attractive looking guy. He never became an attractive looking guy, but he was right up there with Brad Pitt on the top sexiest men in the United States, according to most men's magazines and People and even GQ. Because despite the fact that he was lumbering, a 6'2", 240-pound, balding, old guy. He had characteristics that women mapped in their minds as super attractive and arousing for them. He was confident, masculine, demanding, direct, a complete leader, and not full of primal self-doubts as a general rule, willing to defend and protect, and women just were totally smitten by this. And the interesting thing is, because I looked like him, even when women knew I wasn't him, and even when they thought to themselves, wait a second, the actor James Gandolfini, he isn't the character he plays, Tony Soprano. James Gandolfini wasn't actually a gangster killer, leader, and neither am I. But in their minds, once they had a model in their minds of what was going to be sufficient to turn them on and help them fantasize and get off, suddenly I became attractive through no action of my own, because I looked like someone who play acted a character on television. And this gave me the ability to recognize, because it was so clear and completely unignorable. I had gone from being a 5 on Hot or Not, which is a rating system online. People would take a look at your picture and decide, yes, they think you're hot. No, they don't think you're hot. And I was about average, which was completely fine. I was never going to complain about being average looks. And suddenly my numbers started to climb as more and more women started to get turned on by this fella who looked kind of like me. And I realized that a woman's attraction gauges are controlled by the things that she fantasizes about rather than the things that she knows, the things that she imagines are going to provide her with the sexual interests and delight. And suddenly I became a much more attractive guy, despite the fact that nothing had changed in me. I didn't look any different. I didn't model myself after this character or change my outfits. But suddenly my type climbed in people's minds. And as I watched the body positivity movement trying to make Lizzo into a sex symbol, and I think, no, it isn't going to happen for me. I'm still going to go after girls who would have looked good in 1970s Playboy magazines. But for some reason, ridiculously huge asses have become the order of the day, and other things I can't relate with. But of course, we as people, we're pattern recognition machines. That's basically what we do. We look for things that are familiar to us. So one of the things that builds sexual tension is being the sort of person who inspires in women the confidence that you're going to deliver the goods. So if there's any part of you that's not looking at her with a smile on your face, at least from time to time, you don't have to be grinning like an idiot, but looking at her, staring her in the eyes with comfort and thinking to yourself, oh my God, darling, you've got no idea what I've got in mind for you. You're going to be tearing the sheets off the bed. You're going to be coming like you've never known before. And if you're not thinking that inside and believing it, she won't be feeling it. But when you can look at a girl knowing that you can deliver the goods, knowing that when you bring her to bed, you're going to delight her, she's going to remember you. Because when you believe that and say it to her wordlessly, with your eyes, just feeling it, she will feel it too. Have you guys experienced this? Fellow
Markus, you
panelists?
want to jump
Marcus?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's a big part of the emotion you can convey with that look. Oftentimes, exactly what I tell my students is you need to look at this girl like you're about to give her the best fucking time of her life, but she's got to beg for it first. And if you have that little smirk and sub-communication, I think it works really well. There's a few other things I wanted to jump in and talk about. So we spoke about girls, some of them not liking foreplay. Completely agree. Sometimes these are some of my favorite women.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
it's often more than estrus as well. I think a lot of these girls can either be, they find it hard to get, what we were speaking about before, into the moment. So if someone's sitting there and eating them out, all they're thinking is, like, have I shaved enough? Do I smell? Is this guy into me? Am I going to see into more? It's like the grocery list going on. Some of these girls find it easier to just get into the moment if you just grab them and throw them against the fucking wall. The other thing is some girls have, weird attachment. They're just very avoidant. Other
Yep.
girls don't actually like clitoral stimulation that much or any other type of foreplay. Some girls, especially I find Eastern Europeans, they will just call you gay if you like look at them in the eye for any length of time or you smile at them. So they actually really enjoy being in that submissive space, and I think they have a higher threshold for it. So again, I think the really important thing here is to always try to figure this out before you get into the bedroom. If you're sitting there naked with a girl and now you're thinking, hang on, should I go down on her or should I choke her? Like to wrap your hands around a girl's throat and not know if she likes it yet, it's an intimidating thing for most guys to do, and it can lead to really poor sex if the girl's just like, actually, I don't like that. So I think finding out with some type of sexual conversation first, usually I'll make a cold read, like, look, you seem super feminine. I love it. I can tell you want a more confident, dominant guy. And then you can try to get into the types of sex that she likes, because some girls will actually say, well, actually, I prefer more of a nice guy. And you're like, okay, let's decode what she actually means. But you might get into more of a tantric angle where she actually does like more sensual, like feeling-based sex. I had a student last night that had a girl that was talking about the energy exchange of sex, and she doesn't like to give away her energy. And this is someone that going down a tantric angle, which is great. Let's not steal each other's energy. This isn't a zero-sum game. Let's add to each other's energy. By the
No,
end
let's
of this
cultivate it.
interaction, you should be walking away here on a fucking cloud, okay? After the 15 orgasms I'm about to give you, you're going to have so much energy, you're not going to know what to do with it. So I think there are some girls that are going to like foreplay. There are some girls that aren't going to like foreplay. I think it's our job to try to find that out and open the girl up as much as possible before sex to make it better. And then the last point I wanted to speak about was sexual tension. So we mentioned that you want to keep this going. A lot of times after sex, guys might lose it completely. I think this is probably the number one reason for bad retention. If you're a guy out there and you've had sex with a girl and now she's not answering your messages, or she tells you she's not looking for anything right now, or she just wants to be friends, it's probably because of sexual tension. So here, what you need to make sure you're doing is not having sex and then telling the girl, wow, I can't wait to see you again, and this is amazing, and I love you so much. It breaks all tension. She still needs to think, is this going to happen again? What's it going to look like next time? Maybe there's another fantasy that you can explore after sex. Like, what have you tried? What haven't you tried that you've always wanted to? If she does talk about something now, it could be like a threesome. Now it's on the cards for next time, and it's going to build that tension. So as a guy, and everyone listening, I think it's important to start to realize, what are my actions and behaviors that make the girl start to chase me more? And what are the actions and behaviors that kind of feel like she gets a little bit overly validated here? I think a very common one is kissing. If you're making out with the girls at the club, making out on dates, getting back to your place, and your only way to escalate is making out with a girl, unless you're really good at this and you're able to make out in a very dominant sexual way and pull back afterwards, 90% of the time, this is actually going to break a lot of tension, and it's not actually going to escalate. If you're wondering why you made out with a girl and now she's like bounced off to the next guy at the club, it's probably because this is super validating, and your expression as you're kissing is just enjoying it way too much for yourself, as opposed to creating some like teasing here and it actually being an escalation to something, as opposed to, great, I kissed a hot girl, this feels amazing for me. So yeah, I think those are the things I just want to add in. I think it's important for guys
Yeah,
to
all
start
great
reflecting on
points,
it.
Marcus.
Really
All
excellent.
great points.
I want
I
to
actually hold off
go ahead,
on
go.
just a note about kissing and stuff. Like that's actually something that I hold off on. And while utilizing other forms of creating tension and in a bond of whatever way, because that's something that's so expected and so standard that it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that, right? And it colors the interaction. It I don't know quite how to describe it, but it sends this message that like, no, you have like this area, this thing that's so common. I have a different perspective on it. I hold it to be of something important, and you don't get this until I say you do, until I think that you deserve it. And it changes the color of things. Like I would say, like guys, try it out. Like withhold kissing, but don't withhold other things, and it changes things. And then when you do kiss her, it's like, oh wait, what did I do to deserve this? Like what just happened now? What caused this shift in him that he is now kissing me in whatever way. It could be passionate or whatever, you know.
Yeah. No, I
It
completely
really
agree.
shifts stuff a
Yeah.
lot.
I
And then like the other what was the other thing? Oh no, go ahead, Marcus. I
Yeah, I was
forgot the
gonna
thing
I
I
was
was
gonna
going to
add on
mention.
to that. I was gonna add on to that because
Yeah.
this is something I do with blowjobs. So when I'm chatting to girls and we're talking about the things we like and are interested in, this is where you can show some sexual experience. So you can talk about a range of kinks because now you can deliver those range of kinks. But one thing I'll say is like, look, I'm not really into girls sucking my dick. It's not my thing. And she'll be very surprised and she'll be like, what? Like every single guy loves this. And I'll say, look, I like to be in fucking control. And when you're sucking my dick, I just don't like, I prefer you to like bent over my bed. Like this is just what I prefer. I'm like, look, there's been some girls that are really, really good at it. And I'm not gonna lie, that was great. I enjoyed it. But like most girls just aren't. And this, again, it creates that chase a little bit. This girl, imagine what she's thinking right now. She's sitting back thinking, hang on. So you don't like blowjobs with some girls? Some girls gave you a great time. I guarantee you, if you enjoy blowjobs and you want girls to actually suck your dick really well, this is what's going to happen. They will chase for that. They will try and press you, and they're desperate to now suck your dick. It's a similar thing like semen retention. I went through a tantric phase for a while where I was doing like no coming for half a year. Now I do it intermittently, but telling girls like, listen, I don't come. It's a part of a tantric practice, but there's been one or two girls that have made me, okay, I hope that's not you. And they're so desperate to make you come. They're super passionate. So anytime I agree with like kissing, it's a very generic. Every guy kisses for validation. Every guy over kisses. The girl knows that kissing leads to sex. Like it's just an awful practice to be your go-to for escalation. What I'd rather use is dirty talk or a massage, or if you're going the dominant angle, then yeah, throwing her against the wall is always helpful. But yeah, the kissing, I agree, avoid that. And if you can find other areas that are similar to that you can use as a tool, I think that's also a great thing to do.
You get some good stuff there. We got a lot of interesting questions to go through. So let's take it this way. What advice can you give for guys to last longer in bed?
Well, I'll speak to that one quickly. First thing, uh, if you don't own a wand type vibrator that you are happy to bring to bed with you and your partners, I consider this a serious faux pas, serious mistake on your part if you don't have a good plugged into the wall rather than battery style, something along the lines of an Hitachi magic wand or Wanachi or something along those lines, because women will appreciate that you're willing to do whatever it takes to ensure they have a great time. But also, this can be used by yourself while fantasizing or watching erotic material or whatever to help you gauge your point of no return sexually, and then teach yourself as you're approaching this point of no return, where after you go any further from this point, you're definitely going to be ejaculating, so that you can build up your knowledge and insight on what's going to get you off, and then know when you need to back off. This is the simplest way of giving yourself a greater amount of control over when you ultimately allow yourself to get to the final stages of ejaculation. You can do this whether or not you use a toy that will bring you off, whether you want it to or not, or you do this just with masturbation. You can teach yourself what it's going to take to get you to the point where you would not be able to prevent yourself from getting off, and then lift the toy off of you or stop your stroking or whatever to force yourself to get your head back in the game and hold off on concluding too quickly. Eventually, you will reach a point. I went through a tantric phase like Marcus had done, where the decision to get off has to have been made, and you have to really intend to be able to finally get yourself to that closure moment. But you can have lots of great orgasm without having ejaculation. In fact, you can have sometimes better orgasms without ejaculating at all. However, when you finally get to the point where they match up with one another, and you can be a serious decorator with your final ejaculations, this goes a long way, both for you and for your partners. But as far as it goes, the simplest way to pre-educate yourself, kind of like doing Kegel muscle exercises or whichever, is to learn what it's going to take to, using, if you like, cognitive behavioral therapy, recognize when you've reached a point at which you're going to be triggered to actually go through the final parts of ejaculation, and stop yourself so that you can get yourself back into a state in which you can keep going without having that final result. There's also the Kaplan method, which is simply where you reach down, you grab both your testicles in one of your hands and pull them away from your body, pull them down from your scrotum, which will reduce your imminency. You can keep going longer by simply reaching down every once in a while as you're getting closer to your ejaculation and pulling down on both your balls, extending your cremaster muscle, which is the muscle that lifts your testes back up to your body to ensure you have sufficient warmth to keep your swimmers alive when you're out in the real world or when you're having sex in preparation for ejaculation. And this will allow you to keep going for quite a bit longer. Just have to keep doing it.
Mhm.
Anybody else want to pick up?
I was going to mention the psychological aspect. I think the vast majority of guys who have both like what pre-ejaculatory problems or ED issues or anything like that, the vast majority of these problems are psychological. And I think that once, like my guys, I'm always teaching them to harness their lust, right? Because when you have very high lust, it starts controlling your body, and you start losing control of your body. And so a great way to harness that and to be able to last longer is by controlling your lust. And this has, many chain links all the way deeper into your psychology about, well, like, why is this in the case, right? Like very similar to like stuff like nice guy syndrome and stuff like that. Like you take certain points in the behavior and they link all the way back to something very fundamental within the guy's psychology. And so I think that there's a great benefit to harnessing one's lust. And and then this also has other benefits in this besides lasting longer, but it also allows you to lead better. Because if you're controlled by lust, it's very difficult to actually be dominant, right? Because you are now submissive to lust, right? So it prevents you from being able to plan, be able to create scenes, to lead with your intellect rather than your horniness. And I think that it can help, because not completely, because there very much might be a physiological thing going on. But I think it's an extremely helpful skill to try to harness one's lust and staving off, sort of like edging, right? It's like psychological edging with your own desire. And the more you do this, the more comfortable you get with it, to the point where like she could be doing all kinds of crazy stuff or ready and showing you all of her desire and the things, and it just doesn't phase you. And you're like, okay, and and this has tremendous effect to her because to what Marcus was talking about, with the like the blowjob thing, like I'm not really into that sort of thing. It's the same vibe. It's like, wait a second, and then things rise up. And if you can maintain that stability, that groundedness within your own desire, you gain pretty much like all the chips. Like everything is in your pot. And then you decide, okay, how am I going to divvy this out? Which way, what style, how do I want it to formulate, right? So I think that that's a huge thing. But I will say that for young guys, I get it. It's tough because your hormones are raging like crazy. The experiences are new. You're excited. Your emotions are involved, and it can be tough. But I would just say practice in edging your desire.
Similar to what you said, I
Yeah.
remember if we call it like a high score, my high score is 4.5 hours, and it's great, but you're not really gonna have time to do that every single time. So it's just like okay to do something like that every once in a while, or just once even. So, but what helped me was just to give my personal experience. Uh, when you're some guys are just too into it, just like you were saying. If you think of something completely random and non-sexual while you're doing it, then that helps not ejaculating too quickly or like for the first hour or something. Even for 20 minutes if you're relatively new to this. It's funny because this was happening when I was younger to my high score. And I told my friends about it and they never believed me and they bullied me because of it. But their loss, I'm the one who's doing better. Yeah, keep going. What are some other tips for lasting longer?
Yeah, okay. So I think the first thing here for guys listening is to realize that you don't need to be having penetrative sex for hours on end. I think like understanding what normal is, most guys are coming within 3 to 7 minutes. If you look at survey data, most women say what's desirable is like 7 to 13 minutes. Now, personal experience, I completely disagree with this. I think that most women are saying that. I've just got guys that are just literally just fucking them, and that's the only thing they're doing. And so after 13 minutes, they're like, okay, well, I'm kind of getting a bit sore and dry. I'm bored of this. I think I've been with girls that are very heavily involved in tantra, and you can fuck on and off for hours and hours and hours. Even just girls off Tinder dates seem to want to at least have like the sexual time go for a lot longer. I agree, penetration, if you're just like fucking the same rhythm, the same thing, 13 minutes is a fucking long time. Imagine if you just got a dildo and did this to 13 minutes on a girl, she's going to get very bored, tired, and disinterested. So number one is just understanding what is like a reasonable expectation. You don't have to fuck for hours. I think 7 to 13 minutes is fine. And then you can break that up within, you can then break it up and be spanking or adding some dominance there, or you could be eating her out, or you could mixing something up. You can move to a different room. That's fine. So if you're a guy that lasts 10 minutes, you're completely good. Don't worry about it. The next thing is if you're a guy lasting like 30 seconds or a minute, then this is where I think about what the guy said. How do I reduce the sensation that I'm feeling in my cock right now? So adding a thicker condom, using more lube so there's less friction there. You can also shift the tension, which is what I spoke about. So oftentimes people teach focus on your breath. If you're fucking a girl really hard, you're not going to be able to focus on your breath that well. But you can start to focus on aspects of her that aren't the most attractive thing about her. So if you're a boobs guy and her tits are bouncing up and down and you're like, damn, these tits are, don't look at her tits, all right? Just move your eyes away to somewhere else. If you're in your mind right now and she's dirty talking or something and it's driving you fucking crazy, yeah, I tell her to shut the fuck up, okay? Listen, no more talking. Put a fucking gag in her mouth. Like, whatever you find is your tipping point, well, to really, really shift the attention away from that. If you can focus on your breath, go for it. Otherwise, yeah, there's PC muscle exercises. Again, there's literature on this that has found that it increases the time to ejaculation. Taking breaks is the best thing you can do. If you are lasting 2 minutes, then just take 5 breaks and now you got yourself to 10 minutes, right? Like if you're about to come, all you have to do is whisper in the girl's ear and say, I love your fucking pussy. I just want to eat you out. That's all I want to fucking do. And then when you're about to come, you stop fucking her and now you eat a pussy. It's a lot better than like, hey, babe, I'm about to come. Please stop. It's very unattractive. So just find an excuse to either switch positions, change rooms. As I said, like eat her out, spank her. Just use breaks as your advantage here. And then lastly, what Johnny spoke about was the mindful masturbation aspect. So this is outside of sex. This is your preparation. And it's your practice ground. The way you masturbate is going to be the way that you fuck. If you're putting on porn and you're just jerking off and you're hitting like 1 minute, I'm coming and then I'm good, then don't be surprised when now there's a girl in front of you and after 1 minute you're fucking coming. So when you're watching porn or what I prefer is like read erotica or visualizing is like this is practice for the real thing. Imagine the real fucking thing. Like if you're using condoms, I put a fucking condom on, whatever. Like try simulate it as much as possible. Have the same fucking playlist going. And then when you get close, start to implement these things. Shift your attention away, right? Start focusing on something else. Think about your breath. Take a break. And you'll get a real sense now of how to actually control that buildup that you have. And you might look to change your rhythm. Instead of just going like, this is my perfect thing that gets me to coming, is switch that up. Go a bit slower when you're getting excited or speed up at the beginning and then slow down. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to do this. These are all great, but you have to want to do it. So what I mean by that is some guys just want to get in and fuck the girl and that's it. Just keep in mind, you do that, you're probably not going to fuck her again. So if you want to last longer, here are some easy ways you can do it, start applying it, and it will help quite a lot. There should be an issue.
Yeah.
That
I just
made a
want to dovetail
lot,
on
that made
something.
so much sense when you said about it's like a reflection how you treat porn is like how your sex is going to end up in terms of simulation. That kind of explains like how I was able to last longer because I wasn't doing things normally. I was I don't want to seem weird or anything, but I'll just say
There's
I
no
wasn't
way
doing
of
anything
avoiding
weird.
it.
And there's
We're
no
all
weird
weird.
with this group, I'm sure.
Fucking Gooner over here, just edging himself all night.
Just-
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, I mean,
Own
So,
your shit,
I-
whatever it might be.
Yeah,
I wanted to just dovetail off of what Marcus was just saying, like said something really important, and I just want to highlight a little bit. The idea of getting away from porn and replacing that with erotica. Because if you go to like a porn site, you look at the video length of these things, they're all very short, right? And this, again, like what he's saying, it conditions the mind to, it's basically like Pavlovian sort of stuff to yourself over and over and over, right? So it's replacing that with something that has to do with drawing things out. And if you there's a lot of really good erotica out there. I would actually suggest guys get into writing erotica, and that has, you know, multitudes of benefits. But there's a, it teaches you to draw things out, and it could also just help with your own imagination when you're approaching situations. But it teaches you to kind of like hold off and brings things more just away from simple penile stimulation and starts engaging different parts of your mind to get to a similar place of arousal. So guys, like I would suggest just stop watching porn and replace it with erotica. And you can like just say like do a Google search with Reddit and just say like best erotica writers 2025 Reddit. And there's subreddits that are completely dedicated to erotica. And you'll be able to pick up like all kinds of great authors to start reading.
Damn, that's such an interesting point. Like, imagine like a 2 or 3 hour production. Basically doesn't exist almost. That's an incredible point. The short length
Well,
of the
because when
videos.
girls read those, because they love that shit, that's more so porn for women. When they read those things, the sex act begins when they open that cover, because they're already with this mindset of like, okay, this whole thing is just this fantasy world, and even if it starts off mundane, they're already prepared with this idea that it's a sexual story, and the whole thing is built up.
It's actually.
When
Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, you please.
Okay. I worked in the adult industry for most of, or for the biggest part of the last 35 years or so. And I can tell you that things have changed in the world of adult content tremendously. A bunch of things changed things over the years, both on the business side and on the production side. But it's quite amazing. Old school porn made before home VCRs were de rigueur and everyone had a videotape machine in their home. In other words, before Disney made it big. And a lot of people don't realize that the porn industry made Disney possible. The porn industry is the reason that Disney is still a thing. Nobody seems to understand this, so I'll explain it in a few sentences.
Wait. What's more evil, the porn industry or Disney?
Well, they both suggest all sorts of fantasies that are just completely unrealistic in everyday life. But the point was, Disney wasn't doing very well economically until parents realized that if they had a machine on which they could throw in the same video cassette of Cinderella or whatever over and over again to give them free time while their kids sat and watched it, their life wouldn't be as good. So because people wanted to watch porn, they bought videotape machines. Because they had videotape machines, they could now put Disney content onto the videotape machines and use these as a device to make it possible to get more things done in their home while their kids watched the same show over and over again. And so Disney became huge because people started buying cartoon content, stuff that not necessarily Cinderella 2, Cinderella 3. It's actually a very well understood media fact that Disney made most of its money in response to the fact that the videotape machine became a standard in people's homes, and that was because of porn. People got videotape machines so they could watch porn at home. Internet also grew in very much the same formula. The internet is for porn. Now, when you start to recognize that for most people, porn is something they throw on for a couple of minutes till they get to the thing they think will get them off, and then they quickly get themselves off. They don't watch something to watch it all the way through. You don't comment on what a good actress or what a good actor someone is in the porn industry as a general rule. In fact, these days, as we've switched from scene-based scripted porn to almost entirely unscripted, characters don't have names, the performers are just the performers, they aren't playing characters. It's all what we call porn verite. Okay, it's as real life as it can be. It used to be that it would take 90 minutes of shooting, it would take an hour and a half of shooting to get 8 minutes of camera ready content. And 8 minutes was the average length of a scene in a porn movie. Porn movies were about 81 minutes long on average, so they would fit onto a video cassette that was 90 minutes of duration and have room for ads at the beginning and trailers at the end. Okay, this was well understood industry-wide. This was the business standard. And you wanted to have one lesbian scene and 4 or 5 boy-girl scenes and possibly a couple of boy-boy-girl scenes or girl-girl-boy scenes. And the talent were all compensated for their work based on whether or not it was one girl with one boy or one girl with another girl or one girl with multiple boys. It was all well understood in advance. The male talent was usually paid somewhere between $50 and $150 for a scene. Specialists, guys who were well known and featured guys, might make as much as $500 for a scene. And the girls would make somewhere between $700 for a boy-girl scene, $150 for a BJ scene, another $50 on top of that for every successive boy they would give a head to. It was a very, very inexpensive industry into which to get going. The barriers to entry were you needed to have people who knew what they were doing, lighting, real cameras, and real editing equipment. And of course, as the world has changed and everyone can shoot porn on their iPhone and get better quality than we could back in the 70s and 80s with anything less than 16 millimeter, the world has changed. People don't necessarily need to see edits. They just cut out the stuff where the girls go, oh, that fucking hurts, don't do that anymore. They cut it out so it just goes, oh, that fucking hurts. They cut out the part where she says, don't do that anymore. And so the world has changed, but most people still haven't. Most people never watched the entirety of an 80-minute porn movie. They watched the same 4 or 5 one-minute segments of the different scenes where different people were getting off. Okay, we call the cum shot in porn the money shot. Okay, there's the pop shot, which is where the guy actually ejaculates, and the money shot, which is the one that guys are going to repeat going to over and over again. In most cases, most of the money shots had more to do with the girl appearing to have a great time, which is a very funny thing because women imagine that men don't care about whether women have a good time, because most men don't provide those women with a particularly good time on their first outing. And if they didn't provide a very good time on the first outing, they're very unlikely to get a second at bat. Okay? If a girl doesn't respond to you after she went to bed with you, the odds are you didn't provide a good time in bed. No matter how much she pretended, no matter how well she faked an orgasm, women universally will explain to you, if asked, there's only one reason for a girl to fake an orgasm. It's to get her partner to stop. The only reason a girl fakes an orgasm is to have her partner stop. either because what he's doing doesn't feel good or will never get her to where she needs to be, and she doesn't want to bruise his ego or make him feel bad because at least he's trying. Okay? But when a girl fakes an orgasm, it's to communicate to you that what you've done was sufficient, let's move on. Now, every guy out there has probably learned some number of things that are completely useless. And because every girl he's done them with has faked an obvious, clear orgasm to get him to stop, he thinks that those things are the go-to to provide her with a good time. But instead, he's programming himself to repetitively make the same mistake over and over with every new girl. And this, of course, must fall onto both man's lousy communication and understanding and women's unwillingness to let a man know the truth. In porn, I ran a company called Satan's School for Girls. It was a training college for young porn starlets who wanted to become good in front of the camera. The porn companies and the modeling agencies would send the girls to me at the production company's expense to help a girl learn how to get her hair out of her face when she's giving a blowjob, how to communicate to her partner, you're going too deeply, this is going to cause me too much trouble, or whatever, all the various things she needed to understand, and how to make herself look hot, be exciting, and communicate what she needed to her partner to ensure that she had the best time she could, or at the very least, she looked like she was having the best time that she could. One of the things that was really entertaining was the number of women I was teaching how to do things with other girls who had absolutely no fucking clue what to do with other girls, even though they may have been to bed with many of them. Girls fake orgasms with one another, also to no advantage. Okay? It's crazy. It's crazy. You might end up with two beautiful girls who both think they are bisexual because they've been with lots of girls, and the two of them will end up hooking up with one another. And one of them, in order for her to get off, or in order for her to feel sensitive, she basically needs someone with a feather-light touch or just blowing over her clit hood will give her all the sensation that she needs to get really into the moment. The other girl may need you to practically lift off her clit hood and touch her up with a belt sander before she's going to notice. Imagine what happens to these two girls together. Okay? First girl lies down and starts to go down on her partner, doing what she imagines she would like, which is the most lightweight feather touch she could possibly have. The other girl is lying there wondering when she's going to start, because none of this is doing anything
Where's the
for her.
jackhammer?
Yeah, okay. But after a couple of minutes, she fakes an orgasm so that her partner knows that she can now move on. And they switch. Now the second girl goes in, she's going to do the thing she likes, and the first girl, who needs a feather touch, leaps off like Sylvester grabbing for the chandelier to try and get away. Okay, because the overwhelming disconnection, because it's fascinating for most guys to get off. They need one of a half a dozen movements at one of a half a dozen speeds, and that's the universe of what it takes to get most guys off. A half a dozen things that could be done at a half a dozen speeds. One of them is eventually going to be the trick. For women, instead of having switches and push numbers, it's 100% rheostatic. It's 100% changes. A girl may not want you to touch her nipples abruptly at the beginning of foreplay, but 15 minutes in, she may want you to practically chew those fuckers off. Okay? Women change as their hormones motivate and modulate, as their sensations change. Women are all over the map. Some women, as both Markus and Justin have said, there are women who are either in the peak of ovulation a few days before their body is about to release an egg, and so their brain is saying, flood me with jizz so that I will get pregnant this time. And they'll go out almost at the point of ready to have sex with anyone who looks at them cockeyed, whereas the rest of the month they won't even notice. Some girls are so easy to please or have such a good connection to their sexuality, and they don't necessarily want intimacy, because if the guy is allowed to talk for 5 minutes, she's never going to want to talk to him again. But if she can shut him up after 90 seconds and just get him to bend her over and start fucking her, she's going to get what she's after. So the poisonous thing is, and this is true in the porn industry and in the real world, as a general rule, most women will watch about 5 minutes of porn and then need to get fucked. They will need to get railed. But if you force them to watch 20 minutes of a porn, they'll probably never want to have sex again. Okay? Women are not good at being in the state of a high arousal and not getting what they need. Yes, in terms of bondage and discipline or power exchange, it's great.
Yeah, I was
when
going
your
to say
girl-
that I've been doing it wrong for a long
No,
time.
no. It depends. It's very context
Yeah.
specific.
course, yeah.
Nothing I am saying is a one size fits all everything for anybody. But there's no question many women love that sensation of edging. They love to be just around the corner from what they know is going to be incredible. But here's the panic switch, guys, and this is really, really critical. The reason that women overwhelmingly don't think men give a shit about women, whether women are having a good time, is because women consistently teach men that the trick to getting a girl to have that incredibly obvious huge orgasm like they have in the porno movies, which is virtually always nothing but faked, is to do what usually is the wrong thing that isn't actually making her happy. Because women don't really understand what it is that pleases women. Overwhelmingly, when a woman is on course to have a real honest-to-God orgasm, her brain has switched off its ability to record what's going on. Her brain has switched into, I'm now on track, this is working, and so I'm going to just shut down. Have you ever been with a girl who was having a great time with you in bed, and you were doing something, and she was going, oh, that's perfect, okay? And then she shut up. She just became silent, didn't move, and so you thought, oh, geez, I guess this isn't working anymore. Because as men, we don't understand. When a girl stops moving, you're doing the right thing. When a girl stops moving and stops communicating in any way, it means she's now on track for the orgasm she craves. Try to imagine this, fellas. Imagine you're standing in front of your buddy, and you've got an itch in the middle of your left shoulder blade. You say, could you scratch her? So he goes, sure, and he scratches in the middle. And so you move yourself a little so that where he's scratching is now in the right place. And you get your satisfaction and all is good. Women do this all the time in sex because they know that telling you to move this way or telling you to move that way is very unlikely to have much effect. And worse, when you've moved to make it comfortable for them, you'll only do it for a moment and then you'll move back. So girls will move themselves to where what you're doing is something they can rely on, because if you're already doing it and they put themselves to where you need them to be, they're likely to get their satisfaction. The problem is for most men, when the women stop communicating that faked orgasm sound, they think, oh, something has changed. And so the guy will shift it up, making the poor girl go crazy, because instead of the guy just doing what he was doing, which they moved themselves to make easy for you, you lose faith in that what you were doing was the right thing because they never communicated to you, I'm going to adjust myself so I get what I need. And you, of course, you want to do for them what they need, so you take their cues. But the best cue a girl can give you that you're doing the right thing is no communication at all. No movement, no cue. When you're doing the right thing, she won't communicate at all, and you have to have confidence that the reason she's not adjusting herself or telling you anything is because what you're doing is actually on track to get her off. So this is the simplest model in the world. I want you guys to all memorize this, everyone out there, and I imagine my panelist friends all know this. When a woman gets into bed with a new guy for the first time, she's excited and thinking this is like climbing to the front seat of the roller coaster. She gets into the seat, and the roller coaster starts to move forward, and she's hearing the ticking noise as the ratchets are holding it in place as the roller coaster is being lifted and going towards what should be a climactic crescendo that takes her off into a tremendous gleeful enjoyment. But what happens in most cases is 5 minutes go by of tick, 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 as the roller coaster is going up, the guy who might have been doing the right thing gives up confidence in what he was doing was the right thing, and she slides back down to the beginning. So eventually the guy starts doing something, or she says, try doing this, or could you do this, or she moves herself, and then the guy starts bringing her back up again, tick, 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 tick. But because she's now excited and white knuckle, ready for the point where she gets over the first crest and begins on the enjoyment part, the guy, again, loses confidence in what he's doing, so he changes, and she slides back down again. After the second or third one, she gives up hope of actually having a good time, fakes an orgasm, and tells the guy she's got to go because she's got to be up early, and then won't call him back, because there was no joy for her there. Now, once in a while, a guy actually knows what he's doing, or is good at communicating, or he says to her, hey, no matter what you tell me, if you tell me what you'd like, whether in the moment or in advance, I will do my very best to do exactly what you've told me. If you tell me, keep doing that, I will do everything in my power to just keep doing whatever it was you told me. And I won't stop until you make it clear you want me to. And the girl will go, oh my God, I might actually get off. And a lot of her worry will vanish. It's kind of like when you break out a big wall plugged in vibrator, a wand vibrator, not an insertion vibrator. And she goes, oh God, this guy doesn't mind using toys. I'm actually going to get off. Okay? Because once she recognizes that the endeavor is not going to be a furtive one where all she's going to get out of it is the excitement, and then she's going to get herself off while you're having your smoke or your nap, or when you've left, and she's just trying to get the excitement in advance, so that just like with you, if you watch porn and get off, it's nowhere near as good as if you've made out with a girl for 30 minutes and then you get off, because the hormones and the endorphins aren't there. The excitement, the arousal isn't there. When you go to porn, it's just to accomplish helping you get off. It's not to get you to an aroused state, to stay an aroused state. Now, that's if you're not using porn with a partner. As far as I'm concerned, pornography exists for only one reason. It's to help facilitate people's having a good time in bed, whether they're alone or with a partner. When you watch porn with a partner, it certainly can help exhilarate everything and make the arousal much higher. But if you're watching porn on your own, no problem. Enjoy it for what it is. But if you don't set for yourself the intention of not just using it so I can get off in 60 seconds and go to sleep, but use it to learn what it takes to get me too excited to stop myself, and then through either, as I had suggested, using a vibrator or doing masturbation or whatever, or using concentrations on your breathing, or for you, Ice, I imagine baseball's not a thing. I'm confident for Marcus it's not. In the United States, it's common to say, think about baseball to keep yourself from getting off. I imagine it's Aussie rules or cricket or whatever it is that's local in your region. But you shouldn't need to take yourself out of your state in order to keep yourself from getting off. Edging is all about riding that crescendo, being at the top of the wave and knowing that you can allow yourself to collapse into it, or you can just keep enjoying the ride at the highest state of arousal. But that's going to require your knowing where your tipping point is, where you're going to fall into the final moments before you wish to, which is why I believe we're all in quorum here, that it requires your getting to know what it takes to make it that you've gone too far and you're not going to be able to keep going. Now, Marcus suggested keep switching it up. When you reach the point where any more stroking at this level, I'm definitely going to get off, but I don't want to get off because she hasn't had a good enough time yet. So, hey, let me just bury my face in you for a while. I really love eating you, or whatever. All of these are accurate things. You can do all sorts of stuff, and you can do it wordlessly, or you can give them an announcement. Just change things up, because as long as you're leading and she never feels that she's being abandoned, she'll let you make whatever decisions you like. But checking in with her often is necessary, but it shouldn't require your breaking her state. In other words, when you're doing the right thing and she's therefore neither moving nor commenting, and you look up at her and you see her eyes rolling off into oblivion or whatever, and you just look at her having pre-stated at the beginning, when it looks like you're having the right time, I'm going to just keep doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm committed to not changing up when you stop telling me what you'd like. Because the girl will go, oh, because she does not know whether you've gone down on her perfectly for 5 minutes or 50 minutes. She has no idea of what you were doing that brought her off, whether it took 60 seconds or it took an hour. Check in with your partners. They'll admit this. They don't even know that this is true for them. Because when your brain stops recording, you have no idea of what's going on. You can't look back in your memories and see what was going on because you didn't record those memories. Okay? So
It's like that point with that heightened crescendo. That's when I do start asking questions, right?
because
I mean, I'm a bit of a sadist, so I utilize that area sometimes
sure,
with
because
the
she's not going to
silence
fall
and the
out.
brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's like, no, come in, look at me, and then
Right.
start asking questions that they can't possibly
Right.
answer.
In fact, it's a marvelous thing. Here's something. When I used to teach guys how to bring girls home from clubs, I would tell them all the time. The most important thing is once the girl is in state and you're her leader and she has decided to have you take her on an adventure, do not engage with her. Do not ask her about how long she's been in town or what she's doing. Just get her to the car, turn on the radio, ask her if she likes this, tune around, take out a vibrator if you happen to have one with you or one plugged in the car. I used to carry around with me a vibrator I
Plugged into
brought
the
with
lighter
me
port.
everywhere. Yeah, I had a vibrator.
Never
I
leave home
called
without it.
called Reciprocity. It's a little 10-inch long wand vibrator. The top 2 inches was the vibrating part. It was never designed to be inserted in anyone. I could throw a condom over the top of it so she could feel confident that no other girl had ever been touched with this. I would use this on her in the nightclub and get her off because I would let her know when I was meeting her, first time I'd ever meet her, never had a conversation with her before. I'd point out when we were having a really good time, I don't take numbers from girls until I've had my penis in their mouth. This way, I know that they're not looking at me as a guy who wants to audition for them a bunch of times to try and get their interest. That what they're interested from me is what I'm interested in from them. Having a really great time that's highly sexualized. So of course I would get them off on the dance floor with the help of my little friend Reciprocity. Because women are huge on reciprocity.
Testing, one, two,
Oh my
three.
God. We hear ya.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Your 1, 2, 3 question came through.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay? Because once a girl knows that you're actually going to provide her with a good time and that you're not too intimidated to use a toy with her, that you're dedicated to ensuring that she's going to enjoy herself, all her concerns about whether or not this is going to be a wasted evening vanish. Okay? The best thing I've ever found for maintaining sexual tension is let the girl know that she can rely on me. I am going to bring her to where she wants to be. And I do this mostly non-verbally, mostly through my playful confidence, somewhat through my expressions, looking at her in the face and knowing what's on my mind, and having such a long and established track record of learning and knowing what to do that I can know I'm going to bring this girl to bed and fuck her brains right out of her head. And then she feels it and she'll defer. In fact, the human nature is that the masculine presence is looked to for leadership. The feminine personality looks for a masculine presence that will lead. This can be true amongst lesbians, gay men. The feminine personality looks for leadership to the more masculine personality. If the masculine personality is not comfortable and confident and willing to lead, doesn't need to be domineering, doesn't need to be dominant, but it does need to be self-comfortable, self-confident, willing and able to make a decision, and comfortable taking the leadership role. And then the feminine person will gladly defer, counting on the other person to bring them where they need to be. And this works regardless of your gender or your sex. It's to do with your personality and your personality type. For the people on this, I imagine we are all fundamentally male, fundamentally taking on the masculine role. And so what the girl needs from you is for you to accept your responsibility to be the leader and your confidence that you know where you're going to be leading her to, and that she can comfortably put herself in your hands. I'm a little older, I think, than most of the guys on the phone. I'm in my middle 50s. When I was a younger man, if I went out on a date with a girl who had a car, almost invariably she would hand me the car keys. She wanted me to lead.
Wow.
This was not, it was because she had her dad's car or a car that was given to her for her sweet 17 or whatever. But she wanted me to be responsible for them both. When a girl gets upset about a guy taking advantage of her because she got drunk, in most cases, she drank to make him fuckable. Date rape drugs exist. They're usually alcohol, and they're almost always self-administered. Guys drink to give themselves the courage to do what the woman wants them to do. Girls drink to remove responsibility for their accountability of choosing to go to bed with who they went to bed. I go to nightclubs, I meet girls, I flirt and chat with them, and before I'll have them order a drink or buy them a drink, or before the bartender comes up and asks what they want, I say, just a second, we're having a really good time, and I just want to make sure before you have a second drink that you understand that having this drink implies consent. And they go, what? I say, well, right now, you're still able to make a decision. If you choose to come home with me, we can go home together and have a great time. But after you've had a second drink, you couldn't legally drive. You certainly can't legally decide to come to bed with me. So after you've had this second drink, no matter how well we're getting along, I'm not going to be able to take you home for at least several hours during which you can't have been consistently drinking. So I'm going to ask you now, presuming that we're still having a great time going along, is it your intention, presuming that you still wish to at the time, to come home with me later? If so, and I will tell the bartender, I'll say, please get them the Singapore Sling or get them their gin and soda or whatever, but please ask the bartender to put the alcohol in a sidecar. Bring in a different glass. So the girl will look over at me, look over at the drink, see the soda and the shot, pick up the shot, pour the shot into her drink, take a sip and say, you want to get out of here? Okay. Girls would much rather be getting laid than getting drunk. And once they've gotten to the point where they've recognized that this man is able to make a decision, will not look down upon me with contempt. In fact, the only way I ever look down on women is with appreciation. The only way you can look down on a woman with appreciation is when she's sucking your dick, when you're staring into her cleavage. Okay? So I love women. I only look down on them with great appreciation and enthusiasm. If I can't consider them a peer, if I can't look at them and know we're both doing this because we choose to, both of us making decisions because we appreciate what we're getting into, who we are, what we're after, and who this person is that I'm spending time with, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Right? My worldview has always been...
Can I just jump in about the alcohol
Go right ahead.
drinking?
Yeah,
I know the original question was...
I know you guys are Australians. I understand you've outlawed alcohol. That's purely a joke.
Yeah, I'm just very wary of the audience that we have. I'm just picturing a lot of guys out there. They go on a date, they have a drink, the girl goes to get a second drink. They're like, if you have another drink, that means consent to us having sex. And I just, for the guys listening, I would much rather, I agree with you, right? There are some guys out there that try to use alcohol as a tool, where it's like, okay, let's just drink as much as we can, especially frat party culture, things like that. Sex is horrible when you're drunk, and then you also got to worry about regret the next day and recharge and things like that. I think
regret.
Well, to be fair, both ways.
No.
Some guys
are
terrible.
And I think the important part here is to understand that, but to manage it, maybe what I would do is without actually verbally saying it. So what I would encourage guys is go on a date, have one drink, and then pull, right? There's no point being on a date for 3 hours.
100%.
There's no point having like a bunch of drinks back home. I think One drink, if that's your level, that's fine. As you said, I'm from Australia. I think girls can handle a few more than that, to be fair.
It's not about that.
But
Let
I
me
think,
give you an
sorry,
important
I'll just quickly finish. And then I
please.
think the other thing is there's a lot of guys going out at night gaming. So if you are with a girl that's already had 5 drinks or some shit, right? If you are gonna pull, then I just wouldn't fuck that night, right? You said wait 7 hours. I think that's fine. I think like pull the girl, you can tease her. Justin spoke about this, like build her right up, get her to the point where she really wants it, and then don't give it to her. Because then the next morning when you wake up, trust me, this girl is going to be super horny, and there's going to be a lot less slut shaming concerns because you haven't really been pushing for it. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for guys to understand is that consent. The girl needs to actually know what the fuck she's doing. So don't encourage alcohol. Don't get her to drink a bunch. But I think there's a line there, and I think you can do it in a way that's probably not so.
I
There was
appreciate.
I gotta speed this
I have
up.
a
Let's take
question.
it in
Sorry.
another direction. I gotta push it towards Justin's topics a little before he goes. What are some simple ways to be more dominant in the bedroom?
Yeah, appreciate that because I'm bouncing
No,
about 20 minutes.
absolutely.
I think that I mean, aside from the prerequisites of having some confidence and being relaxed and comfortable with yourself, just giving simple commands. And what I tell my guys that are new to this, I tell them to say the thing that they're doing already, right? So let's say you're messing about, you're changing positions, and you're going to silently put her in a doggy position. Instead of silently doing that, say get on all fours or bend over, right? So that's one way to basically just narrate what you're already doing or what you're about to do. And guaranteed she will like this because one of the biggest concerns of women is that the guys are just too damn quiet. They don't say anything. They don't even moan until like the last moment of orgasm. And so they like this. So understand, guys, they really like to hear you. They like to hear your voice. They like to hear words. They like to have pictures painted in their mind. And this can go very, very far, both in ranges of degradation and praise, as well as hypnosis. Like there's so many ways that your voice can be utilized in the bedroom. So I would say just get comfortable talking, and a good way to do that is first with basically narrating the things that you're doing or you're about to do. The next one is just really simple commands, and they are take off your clothes, bend over, open, get on your knees. Just really simple stuff, like not crazy, like, super kinky, complicated sort of stuff, like stuff that regularly happens in, everyday sexual experiences. All you're doing is just telling them what to do. Like that she wants to suck your dick, right? Or she's done it before, like maybe the last time you got together. So this time you just say, get on your knees. Or you're not getting undressed, but you tell her, take your clothes off, right? Close your eyes, open your mouth. Really, really simple things. Put your hands behind your back. And those are just very simple things. They're very common actions that are done in, say, like vanilla situations. And so it's not going to feel out of the norm, but for both people, right? For the speaker and, for the woman who is doing these things. And it's very, very easy. It's just, I guess, for some guys, mustering up the courage to be this communicative in the bedroom. Just understand that when you do it, she wants you to talk. She really wants you to talk, and she will absolutely enjoy it.
I can't agree more. Women overwhelmingly are deprived of man's communication of their pleasure. Women learn to love giving blowjobs when they find a guy who is very effusive and, oh my God, that feels so good. Oh, that's great. Oh, girls don't want to.
Even in instruction, like not just
Absolutely.
praise, but just saying like, no, do it this way, slow down, speed up, use more hand, use less hand, use more teeth, use less teeth, like all of the instructions. And because to your point, Johnny, you're like wanting to like get to the point like, yeah, I got him off. Like, and also to Marcus's point where you're saying like, oh, I don't like blowjobs and that sort of thing, and then bringing out that pride. It's like you're basically giving her the keys and saying, look, this is how you do it, and it's not being afraid to give instructions. It's extremely helpful for everybody involved.
Almost all women in my experience love to know that they're doing a good job. It's part of the exhibitionist nature of people. They want to be well received. They want to know that other people are pleased with them. And women are culturally raised to be people pleasers pretty much globally. My concern is always, how do I allow this girl, whomever I'm with, to know that what she's doing is what she is supposed to be doing? So in terms of how to be more dominant, being more assertive, being communicative, saying, okay, making it clear that you have chosen the role of leading and that you are expecting her to defer to you is critical when you want her to feel that she cannot fail as long as she puts in best efforts. Do you follow what I'm saying, guys? The girl needs to know that she's not flying blind. You are going to let her know what you want, and as long as she does that, she's going to succeed, or succeed, I suppose.
Right.
But
or the opposite, but it's still communication and making a concerted effort to not approve. Now that's getting a little bit more technical, but it's all about like the emotional roller coaster, to your
right.
example, Johnny, because in a roller coaster, it's not just shooting straight across a plane, right?
Right.
It goes up, down, there's corkscrews, there's all sorts of things. Sometimes it purposely rolls back and goes the other direction, you know? I enjoy saying, no, that's incorrect. You're doing it wrong. Now that's kind of going into a little bit more technical aspects, and you have to be very comfortable with saying negative, quote unquote, negative things in the bedroom. But that's just as powerful, like
Indeed.
emotionally, because she's like, oh my gosh, like I don't like that like kind of dings my ego just a little bit, and I don't like that feeling. But then it's like you mix it with other things, it can be really enjoyable, right?
Yeah,
You mix
I
in like say
completely agree with
physical.
this. I think
Hey, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to add on to this. I think that dirty talk aspect, as you said, these are really easy things for guys to do. I think when they hit dominance, sometimes they do picture a girl hanging from the ceiling, getting like beat up with a cane, and it can feel intimidating. I think that advice you gave are these little just, yo, go sit down, lay down, move over, do this. It is super powerful. I always encourage guys. I've got a video, it's like an hour long, how to be dominant in and out of the bedroom online if people want to check it out. But I think that out of the bedroom is also a great way that you can start it. If you're on a date with someone and you're acting like a little pussy, you're not willing to like buy the drinks or tell her where to sit, and then you get into the bedroom and you try to be dominant, it's not going to work. It has to be established. So learning to do that, not even with women, just with men. If you're going out, like, yo, pick where to eat, pick where to do, like, start practicing this dominance muscle a little bit more. And then when you are with a woman on a date, as you said, she's going to be able to enter that submissive vibe. She's going to like bring out that feminine energy. And then have a plan is the last thing I'd add to this. A lot of guys might get in the bedroom and it's like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not sure like what's going on. And of course, the girl is naturally going to lead there. So if you just even have, like, I don't care if you're a fucking virgin, even if you just have a baseline level of, okay, I'm going to get it down, I'm going to get her clothes off, I'll give her a massage, then I'll eat her out, I'll finger her, then I'll fuck her this way. Even just a basic plan that you can lead her into. And I love the dirty talk, follow with the commands, and you could learn that through the erotica that you spoke of earlier. Yeah, that would be what I would add to be dominant for guys. It's still learning, let's say, how to do
For
it.
sure. Yeah, the like leading prior to sex. I'm just gonna like go in a little bit more on what you were saying. Um, it's subtle forms, right? It's you're going out somewhere where there's like a table and chairs, whatever it is. You pull it out and you say, sit down, right? It like don't ask like where would you like to sit? You just say sit, right? Sit down, whatever. There's even nonverbal ways, like say you're leaving an establishment, okay? You just simply put out your hand because it's saying without saying, take my hand, right? And you're like leading her across the street or something like that. that's also a nice little gauge. Like if it's like a first meeting, is you see like, is she letting go of your hand, right? If like when you cross the street, for example, is she letting go, right? Or does she want to stay holding your hand? So there's a number of ways that you can take the lead. And I would say part of it is just not being afraid of her reaction. I think that's one of the hugest things that guys have to get over is what if she doesn't like what I do? And that in itself suggests that there is a belief and a framing of like, well, I'm just trying to stay on her good side so I can get the thing that I want, right? And that is like a whole internal structure that needs to be dealt with. But I think it's really important um, to be more comfortable with what it is that you want and be able to communicate these things without the fear of her disliking it. And that because that's going to get in the way of her sensing your authenticity because women are really, really good at reading between the lines. Because like you've seen girls like when they're sitting at a table, say it's like a loud venue, and they're literally having full-on conversations with each other without a word spoken. It's just like looks and vibes and shoulder checks and making faces and things like that. And you're like, holy fuck. And then you talk to the girl like, oh yeah, Jenny was telling me like blah, 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 blah. And you're like, but you didn't say a word. You know what I'm saying? But they can do this. They have this ability to read a whole lot of things that aren't said due to their nature developing feeling and instinct and survival and all that stuff. So they can sense when you're doubting your own authenticity, when you're fearing your desire to say something or do something. They can sense that subtle half step or double checking yourself in just really maybe it's micro expressions or some sort of emotional thing, but they pick up on it for sure. And that's kind of what sends doubt in their mind, like, oh, this guy isn't who he thinks he is or who he wants me to think he is. So it's just good to practice to like what one of my mentors says is just to bet on yourself and really lay into that betting on yourself and be all right with her not liking something. It's all right. It's really okay if you put your hand out, for example, and to say, take my hand, and she's like, no, I don't want to. And you're like, all right, that's totally fine. Like you have to be completely all right with whatever happens. And because you don't want to be what we hear a lot is being outcome dependent, right? You have to be completely all right with whatever happens. And so she takes your hand, great. If she doesn't take your hand, great. Like if you tell her in the bedroom, get on all fours, and she's like, no, I don't want to. I don't like that position. You're like, okay, like it doesn't matter, right? None of her reactions to how you're, interacting with her should really matter to you, especially like on an emotional level. Because if it does, then that shows that there's a whole chain link of things going back into, your psyche and how you view women, how you relate to women that is problematic, which is not a bad thing. It just means that you need to investigate that. You need to take some deep dives with yourself, do some journaling, talk to somebody or whatever to sort that out of why it burned your ass so much that she didn't want to do a certain something in the bedroom or she didn't want to, follow your lead outside the bedroom. But yeah, I would say like just do the thing, right? Just try the thing, trust in yourself. And if she doesn't like it, that's quite all right. Like women are entitled to have their feelings. They're entitled to say no. And you have the right to not get pissed off about it or get butthurt or whatever.
Just got some questions here I want to group together quickly before you guys got to go. What is the whole BDSM thing like? Do you have safe words? And how do you make rough sex or BDSM feel safe?
Well, I would say that it's, you hear it in the circles a lot that communication is one of the biggest things that have to occur within BDSM, generally speaking, because we can go into areas that can be potentially dangerous, either emotionally, psychologically, or physically. So the more risk there is, the more communication there must be. Okay. And other times, because of what I was describing, like with the reading between the lines, if it's not in that realm, things can be communicated without straight up talking about it, right? And they can just read you. And the whole reason for it is to have trust, right? Because, you know, we all know on the panel that the more trusting, the more vulnerable, the more open a woman is, then that is freeing her from herself so that she can be really like enveloped in the moment. And so the more she can trust you, the more freeing and releasing she can be, right? And then the more influenced by your guidance and influence. So the whole thing, like really, it's not about anything that you think it is, right? BDSM is incredibly complex. It's incredibly subtle. It has really nothing to do with sex at all. And it has to do with really deeply connecting with somebody on levels that we often keep hidden from society and we keep hidden from ourselves. And in order to do that requires a tremendous amount of trust and willingness, right? Willingness to go into places that feel uncomfortable, emotionally or psychologically or physically. And so in order to do that, yeah, communication is like of the highest priority. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I'll just tag on to this before I go. So yeah, I think BDSM, if anyone wants to get into it, I think it can be incredibly powerful. You may not feel like you like it at first, and I think this is very common with basically anything new that you try. So I would give it a proper go. And what I found personally for me, for a lot of my students, is it taps into a whole new level of what I would describe as like confidence or masculinity. When you have a girl in front of you that you can have this play where you are completely dominant. It can feel amazing not only for yourself, but now for the girl, because you have that polarity. She's able to let go completely. When she is in that zone, she's typically going to be way more in tune with the body, feeling way more emotion and way more pleasure. And so she's going to absolutely love it. Now, going to the second part of this question, how do you make it feel safe? This is the tough part. Because if you're in a kink party or you go to a BDSM event, that's really easy. Sometimes I've met girls off Field, which is like a kink app. Is most of these girls will just tell you, like, what's your lists, right? What are the things you like? What are the things you don't like? What's your safe word? Easy. If you're on a Tinder date, if you just pull a girl from the club and you pull out a list and you ask it, like, it's always going to end badly. She's going to be incredibly fearful or think you're some crazy lunatic. So it needs to be done in a much more, let's say, natural or smooth way. So I will start to, as I said before, make some cold reads, bring up some sexual talk, get it to start becoming a little bit more open. And then you can ask questions like, yeah, I'm just curious, like, what type of porn do you watch? Or what's something you wanted to try and never been able to? What is your fantasy? Look, I know you might not actually want to do it, but just what's your fantasy? I'm really curious. If you open this space, you're not judgmental, and you lead with it first, the girl will start participating in this. She's going to let you know what she likes and doesn't like. And that is going to be essentially your list. What are her limits? What are the things that she's willing to try out? And now, if you want to create a safe word, again, I probably wouldn't just be like, what's your safe word? A lot of these girls might not even understand what that is. I would just ask them. If you've been with a guy before and there's a situation where you're like, I'm not enjoying this, or it's too rough, or I just don't like it, what do you usually do? Most of the girls say nothing. Other girls say stop. And then I just tell them, like, look, sometimes it's really kinky and we're having a lot of fun, and you're telling me, like, stop in a little dirty tone. That can be like fun and sexy. And I don't know if you actually mean stop or it's just like provocative. So I think we should have like a word that we can use that's not sexy, that can just let us know, like, let's change this up. I'm not really enjoying it right now. And then you can come up with that word. Like if the girl doesn't, you can just give a red, for example. It's an easy one. It's really common. And now the girl knows, okay, he knows exactly what I like, what I'm willing to try. He knows exactly what I don't like. And I know if we're in a situation where I'm just not feeling it, we can just change it up, and all I need to do is say a word. So that's how I usually start out with a girl, if it's from Tinder or some shit. I know a lot of guys here that can be intimidating at first. If you want to wait to the second or third date, that's completely fine too. But that would be my way to ease into it. I'm sorry, I got to bounce. I got some coaching now. But yeah, guys, it was nice meeting you all. Anyone watching, if you want to find out more about myself, you can go to Ultimate Man Project. I got some sex content on there as well. And then our mastermind, we have some sex content too. I've got videos on how to do wax play, how to massage girls, all things like that. So yeah, everyone's been nice to meet you. Sorry, I got to bounce, but catch you.
All right,
Bye,
Marcus.
Marcus on
Take it
Pornhub.
easy.
Nice meeting you,
Bye,
Marcus.
Marcus. Nice meeting
Thank
you,
you.
Marcus. Thanks for your time.
How long are you in
Appreciate
the
you.
U.S.?
Yeah, and this is also my cue to get out. I've got a dinner date to get to in 30 minutes. So
Alrighty.
I got to bounce
Thanks.
as well. But I just thank you for having me, Johnny. It was great to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
Richard, we didn't really get to have a back and forth, but it was a pleasure being on the panel with you as well. And we'll be in touch. Take it easy, fellas.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna introduce Richard here. He's been waiting a while, driving around and stuff. Richard, where are you calling in from? And tell us about yourself too after that. What you're
All
doing.
right. All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. You guys can hear me a little bit?
Yep.
Okay. The video's not flipping when I'm talking, so I'm not sure. Still figuring this technology out for sure. So first of all, let me do a shout out because I'm kind of a little bit of a historian, and I love how this whole pickup and dating is just about the Renaissance movement of men trying to be men. Like that's the heart of it. And I listened to, I think I read a paper called Critical Moments and Bridges where I realized don't kiss the girl right at the end of the date. And that was revolutionary for Generation Xers. So huge shout out. This knowledge for a little while would have went extinct if it wasn't for you. So I just want to share my heart, and I've been under your leadership, and I've seen you're always there. It's a privilege for me. I'm trying not to get a little emotional, but thank you so much for just doing what you're doing and preserving this knowledge, so the next generation can learn how to be masculine men and how they can pick coaches and people that fit their style. So shout out, thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks. Where are you calling from?
Viva Las Vegas.
So Johnny, you're also in Vegas, right?
In fact,
yes, sir.
Interestingly, Richard had written to me some time ago, and I was doing a bunch of other projects, and I didn't follow up. But having looked back, he had reached out to me this morning. So I'm confident that we're going to get to know each other in the real world, and the world will never be safe again.
That's
Awesome.
true. That sounds accurate. Richard, tell us about your stuff, because I remember you showed me maybe a dissertation or essay, something along those lines on Skene glands. Can you talk about the kinds of things that you do and the kinds of things you can talk about?
Okay, so with the short let me time myself so I don't want to over talk. Okay, so the 30-second thing is how I got into it was I was in Asia, in the Philippines, and I was kind of raised Eastern Christian, and I had kind of got to the point where I'm thinking I'm not going to meet the girl of my dreams. There's no denominations around me. I'm in my early 30s. I got to figure this out. And I started in 2003, and eventually I came to the Philippines, and I studied with guys that did kind of the mission type branch of the pickup.
Could you
Did a
repeat?
massage there.
You sort of froze up on the screen, and I know you're very far away, being also in Vegas, but your signal vanished.
Okay, testing. Yeah. All right. So I have Wi-Fi and the data going, so I'm trying my best. But in short, the guys had, because I had been a massage therapist. I've been doing reflexologist since I was 8 years old with the reflexology card, and I had gotten a license and studied this field a lot. So at one of the super conferences in Asia, he asked me. The people wanted to know can girls squirt or not, and this topic came up, and I thought, no, dude, like a squirter was a unicorn. Like good luck, you know. And when you found one, they were hard to keep. So in short, what happened was I came across they gave me a bunch of classes and stuff. I studied it. I started teaching it. Started practicing it in the field. And then I came across Steve P, who Johnny is very good friends with. And I came across his stuff, and I was blown away. I mean, I had watched everything up to that point, and I watched it, and I practiced it. In like that third session, I got to go to Squirt every single time. So that was to massage the whole vagina was like it was just so revolutionary for a generation. I'm 48, Generation X guy. So I started studying this really just in the field, and my reputation became pretty good. And I practiced. I came across Johnny and Steve's what do you call that? One of the classes on how to manage multiple relationships, and I was blown away because I've studied Benjamin Franklin, his Art of Virtue of Chastity, and when I heard them talk, it answered questions and things, and from the polygamous side to the polyamorous side. So with all that going on, it helped me. It was much harder, to go out and approach 100 girls versus 10 or 5 and say you're looking for a relationship. So I stuck it out in the beginning, which was hard, developed the skill set, and just got a good reputation. And then the guys were like, hey, can you teach us? So I started teaching guys. And during this time, I probably watched Steve's class probably, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 times. I would just put an automatic play while I was with the girl. And it helped out quite a bit, actually, because the timing sometimes of the universe and coming to a certain situation. So I started making girls, I did the whole vaginal massage. I figured out how to systematically teach it to guys who have no skill set at all. And I figured out troubleshooting of small hands and large hands. And because I was doing it for free, and because I was inner circle leader of the country, it was very easy to do. And the higher ups were like, yeah, as long as you're not making money, you're just trying to build your inner circle. Go ahead. So I did that and got really good at it, really good at teaching guys. And then I came to back to Las Vegas, my hometown. And within about a year, I hit up with one of the gentlemen in the brothels north, and it was all set to go. He was going to bring me on. And then about 4 days later, he passed away and went to probate and all this stuff like this. So it was a little bit discerning. So fast forward a few years later, I pick it back up. I think, hey, let me start doing this. So what I've done is I use a Western medical style to teach guys how to massage the vagina, the whole vagina, from front to back, the sides, the whole thing. And I came across like women's cervix in the Philippines or outies, which is way different. So in that, I started teaching and had recorded a bunch of stuff in the Philippines. So the Skene, to circle back to what you're saying, the Skene ducts, when I found out that there were 3 places women ejaculate from, not one. The first one was the urethra. And as I started warming up and practicing with the same girl, about 6 sessions, it started squirting out of the urethra and the Skene ducts, periurethral glands. And I was like, okay, what's this? Why is the periurethral only shooting out clear, but the urethra shooting out a milky fluid and clear combination? And I went all the way up to like a dozen sessions with one girl, for example, and I got her be in the beginning, there was like maybe 100% urethra. Then the middle stages is like, for what my experience is like maybe 70%, 60% urethra and the Skene ducts. And at the advanced stage, it could be like 70% Skene ducts and urethra. And so what happened was I wrote a paper, document. I came back to the States and I had all this field knowledge, right? And I don't have a college degree, but I'm pretty resourceful. I studied a lot of Benjamin Franklin stuff. So I put together a paper and revised it, and I met a lesbian OBGYN scholar in Mexico, and we helped write this paper together, which is still evolving on the site. So in short, the Skene ducts are 2 little orifices that are next to urethra, and all women have it. I guess some papers say they don't have it. Some research papers say, but in short, the Skene ducts are 2 orifices that I believe the human body is designed and engineered so that you build up to it. It can happen maybe the first time. I haven't experienced it, or maybe I don't pay attention enough. And when they get to the Skene, so the orgasm is they go to the urethra. They have a localized orgasms in their body, their legs, sometimes down their legs, stuff like that in their stomach. When you get to the advanced stage, there's a different endorphins, which I'm still trying to figure out a lot of that stuff, where it's a higher orgasm. When they're in advanced stage, like 7 to 12 sessions, with the girl, what'll happen is that she'll describe she feels like she's floating, and it's like a higher type of orgasm. They just tell me that's the best orgasm they've ever had. Every single girl that gets to that point. So guys in the Philippines, it's different than men in Africa, right? Like there's different penis sizes. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So these guys had a lot of issues with their penis size, and a lot of guys would just go down the girl or just whatever, and they're risking STDs, all kinds of stuff. So I trained the guys how to basically like give the girl to ejaculate, using their hands. Now I use a longer system. I trained Hunk Hands and I got together one time. He teaches a lot of the sexual aspect in the bed, but I taught him a massage table very systematically so you can master the basics or go back to it if you're having troubleshooting issues. So the Skene ducts is an amazing, amazing, amazing thing. Johnny knows way more about it, the history, than I do. So we should maybe ask him a little bit about that as well. I have a paper I'm working on, but I'm a neophyte compared to Johnny. So Johnny, it is an honor, by the way. I love your class with Steve, and I watched it so many times. I just thank you for your value in this whole community of men in Renaissance Revolution. I'll shut up now.
You're tremendously sweet. It's an embarrassment of riches, your compliments here. Um, as I always say, it's better to ejaculate than never.
Right.
And and that goes for women even more so than men. But I took a look through your website because I finally got a chance to look at the email you had
Yeah.
sent me
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. For again, I apologize for that. I just
Yeah.
was working on entirely unrelated things, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I receive an astonishing quantity of unexpected or unanticipated email every day. People write to me. It's it's constant, and I don't mind it. I'm happy to give value. I'm happy to
Yeah.
be of service. It's part of my reason to exist. It also just means that I guess like a primary care providing doctor, I generally think I know the answer in the first 30 seconds, and I'm already telling them what they need to know without actually waiting to hear what's going on. And so I apologize for that. It's a professional habit that I need to get past. Leaving that as an aside, the stuff that you're working on is incredibly valuable. Men certainly need to have a much better understanding of the biomechanics of women. The Cowper's fluid, the Skene's glands, the issues with the anterior fornix, and all the aspects of the vagina, including the extraordinarily poorly understood clit, which is much, much larger and more prevalent
Yeah.
than people have been raised to understand. These are things that most men don't get. They don't get them because most men's actual sexual education, to the extent that they have some, either comes from watching porn, which is about the least educational and most misrepresentative form of of representation of human experience possible. Not that I think porn is bad. I don't at all. I think that most porn is just not very good. That's
Yeah.
the true
Yeah.
crime
Yeah.
of pornography is most of
Yeah.
it's not any good.
Yeah. You know what's surprising? Just a short add-on. Women I talked to about this, they said they want the kind of porn they wanted to see, and I don't want to sidetrack too much. Is they actually want to see them like they want to like take like a camera crew and go into the field and like they want to like watch like a real couple go on a date and talk and chop it up and have a romantic time, then go back to the house and do that. So that when when you guys were talking about the book and different things like that, I've heard feedback about that. But anyways, I had to say that because I felt intuitive. Sorry to cut you off, but just to go
No.
back to that.
Not to put too fine a point on it. This isn't the Johnny show, and I have no problem with being
Yeah.
cut off. I,
Okay.
I'm.
This is my first panel.
This is my first panel as well. ICE holds these, and this is the first one I was able to make it to. I appreciate the consistent invitations. I just my timing wasn't available. Things are better now. I'm very happy to be able to participate. Happy to meet you virtually. I'm sure we'll meet up in person not long from now. Might take a little more for ICE to convince himself to come north, but we'll be here. If you find yourself deciding to come to Vegas, ICE,
Won't be the first time.
Yeah.
I was there less than 2 years ago.
okay, well, if you decide to come to Vegas, I'm sure we've got plenty of bedrooms for you here at Casa Sopomo. Our place is facilitated for lots of guests because that's I've couples and individuals come in for coaching a lot, and so we've got
Wow.
a big place with lots of bedrooms. To happily put you up. Anyway, so
Thanks.
coming back to the more significant thing. The world is full of women who don't understand themselves and have been raised to feel guilty and anxious about having the feelings they have, while men understand women almost not at all. Their sex education usually comes from big brothers or other people who also have never had any actual formal or valid education. The things that they've been taught are all overwhelmingly wrong. The world is full of men who believe that a woman who's had a lot of sex with a lot of partners should be undesirable because she'll be all stretched out and loose, as though the reason a girl is tight on her first experience is because her vag is going to loosen up. The vagina is a muscle group, and like all muscles, it gets stronger with repeated use under strain. It doesn't get weaker. You don't go to a gym and watch some guy curling a 60-pound weight and look at his arm, it's all flabby and weak. No, it's massive muscles doing strenuous work under load. The vagina works the same way. Most of my girlfriends, who are all very familiar with squirting and very familiar with postponing or preventing squirting when they wish to, knowing that it's up to them, most of those girls can practically open a beer bottle, a twist-off bottle in their vag without difficulty, and they've got grips. They feel like a baby hanging onto your hand. It's amazing.
14 pounds of pressure.
Because, of course, when a girl is a virgin and terrified and usually in some pain, having just had some flesh torn, doesn't really know what to expect, of course she's clamped down because she's exerting all her muscle to hold herself clamped down. As soon as a girl starts having regular sex, she starts to realize this is actually not so bad, and usually this is actually pretty good, and wow, I can even get into this. And so she loosens up from being a virgin because she's now enjoying the compliancy and being involved. When she starts to understand or be made to appreciate that holding on a little tighter will actually be pleasant for her partners, she has the risk of discovering that when she grips, her partner gets off too quickly. So, of course, this is a disincentive for her to do Kegel muscle exercises and things like this. Most girls don't learn about Kegel muscle exercises until after they've had a couple of kids, lots of general purpose sexual experience, and they're maybe having a little bladder leakage issues. This is for incontinency issues. They start to learn to exercise their pubococcygeal muscle so that they can keep from leaking when they're at a comedy club laughing their asses off. They don't want to leave a puddle. But the truth is, it's exactly the same muscle set. It's the same muscle set that men who want to be any good in bed need to put time and energy into. So I can put a full-size bath towel off the end of my unit, and if I have an erection, I can lift and lower it over and over again. This is pretty inspirational to girls. I can do basically the same things I do with these two fingers with my penis. And so girls are usually...
You could use chopsticks. Yeah. You could write a book.
Well, the book that you guys, just to interject, the book that came to my mind, you were talking about how to go last longer. My uncle, I should say my name's on this. Anyways, my uncle, he's calling my older brother. He, 20 years ago, he was very active with his wife, and he gave me a book called The Multi-Orgasmic Man. And I think the gentleman wrote about the.
He was invited to this panel. The two co-authors of that book were invited here. One of them declined a few hours back. I think you lost connection there.
Start off like that. You can build the muscle up so you can hold your squeeze, and when you go to ejaculate, it stops. It goes back down. Your penis does not stay desensitized. When you get to the proper training, and it will stay erect, and you can have more than multiple ones. And from a biological sense, you could do that, and you could work your way up into it. And there's different things like that. But yeah. So when you guys were talking about that, popped in my mind. That was supposed to be a comment saying, "Check out the Multi-Orgasmic book." Thank you for your patience.
Well, Mantak Chia is an excellent person. Was it Doug or Mantak that you heard from?
Montauk. It was, I believe, because that's where I found the Multi-Orgasmic book, and then I went to his other one, Sexual Reflexology, where I learned about reflexology of the vagina, which was amazing. That's the only book I think I've seen so far that goes really in depth like that. So yeah,
in depth is the word.
Awesome. Yeah.
Listen, when I'm at a nightclub and I want to get a girl's attention, so I want her to know that I'm looking at her. When I point at her, I point with these two fingers and summon her like this.
Okay.
That way she knows what she's getting into.
Oh man, I always like the system of opening and closing at the same time. Like when I met women, they say, "What do you do?" That's always going to come up. I say, "Stick your hand out," because I had a massage business here for a while, doing chair massage, and so during that my prime of doing that, I mean, I could even go to my car and bust out a back rub chair and bring it into the lounge. But I said, put your hand down and start massaging her hand. And then she looked at me kind of like, what? I said, I said, I'm a massage therapist. I
She
do
just
massage
said,
therapy.
yeah, I do hand jobs. That's fabulous. I also got I'm from Canada originally. I'm a registered massage therapist from Canada.
Oh, I
But
didn't know that. That's awesome. That
well,
makes sense that
Steve's also LMT,
Oh, yeah.
California, and I mean, understanding that the issues are in the tissues,
Yeah.
and that helping people to free up their meridians and be able to experience things more holistically without storing stresses in big bundles of pyruvic acid or lactic acid or blocking things is unbelievably powerful, both for day-to-day life and for, you want to call it sex magic. But
Mhm.
but moving away from, I mean, Steve's white tantra stuff is absolutely brilliant and something that I think everyone should invest their time in.
Yeah.
Buy a copy of it, try it out.
Yeah.
Um, Ultimately, the first 3 discs of that series, first 3
Yeah.
recordings, are much more about freeing up general meridian wellness. And
Yeah.
the final disc, which gets into the insertion level, um, causing flow to the cowper's fluid to the around to get that squishy sensation around the G spot, to get that um, spongy liquid development, so that when a girl squirts, she can paint the wall. Or uh, it's quite fascinating. Of course, for a man, it doesn't occur to you that the frustration of having to walk around with a hard-on when you don't want one is actually a pretty mild thing compared to for a woman, where her brain chemistry has decided that she should be lubricating now, and suddenly she's squishy and wandering around like a sponge because her Skene's glands have produced lots of what amounts to be necessary lubricant to allow her to accept something easily and readily over and over again being inserted into an area that normally wouldn't have that. Right? For a girl who's not sexually aroused, her uterus has not tilted itself into position, because that takes about 10-15 minutes of foreplay for a girl to reach having her uterus maneuver itself so that her cervix will now have a fairly direct route to send incoming ejaculations from men to where the eggs will be as they release from the fallopian tubes. But human women, are remarkable amongst all species in that very few species will ever have sex for fun, or have sex for any reason other than the woman's brain chemistry has told her, you must now harvest sperm. Women go into heat about once a month for 2 or 3 days, somewhere between the 7th and 10th day after the conclusion of their menstruation. So as they're leading up to about the 15th day of their month, based on the first day of breakthrough bleeding would be called day 1. So about 2 weeks later, that's when they're going to release an egg. And most women release only 1 egg a month. They have eggs in both of their ovaries, and they offload them once a month. And they can only really become pregnant for about a half a day. About 9 hours or so is how long the egg can survive disconnected from its follicle. In the couple of days leading up to when she releases it, her body will produce follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormones, both of which program her brain for the potential of becoming pregnant. And then she'll release the egg. The egg will either find that it is fertilized by one lucky sperm of the hundreds of millions minimum and possibly many billions that she has collected in the days leading up. And then it will nestle itself into the lining of her uterine layer, and that will be the outside of the placenta sac, which is going to be the egg in which the embryo will eventually develop. In order for all this to happen, it's tremendously simple. The girl doesn't have to do anything. However, if 2 weeks later her body realizes that she has not become pregnant, it is my belief that her body will start producing extremely hostile hormones to
Wow.
give her PMS, to make her extremely
Yes,
angry and
that's right.
hostile, so that if she's found herself with a man who has failed to make her pregnant, she'll become so annoyed by him and so annoying to him, she'll have to move on. I think evolutionarily, the reason women have PMS when they haven't become pregnant is that their body is trying to ensure the next guy is going to be someone new who might be able to get her pregnant. Okay? Because her body wants her to become pregnant. That she's evolved to do. All she needs to do to become pregnant is have sex and be more than about 15% body fat. So any girl who's wafer thin, any girl who's a runway model or an extreme athlete, fitness nut, yoga, whatever, will discover that she stops having periods when she gets down below about 15% body fat. Right? All the Olympic athletes, they don't have to bring tampons with them when they travel. They know they haven't had a menstruation in years because menstruation invariably follows ovulation. If you aren't ovulating, then there's no need to shed your lining. So women who are having regular periods are having regular periods because their body still believes that they can become pregnant. So when a girl believes she can become pregnant biologically, like her body is ready for her to become pregnant, her brain starts saying to her, go out and find something to fertilize you. And she'll look around for men who appeal to her. First thing is, they won't be men who she's familiar with, because biologically, familiarity is the antithesis of what she would be after. She doesn't want someone who smells like a daddy because she doesn't want to be impregnated by her brothers or her father. She wants someone who smells different. She wants someone whose major histocompatibility complex, MHC,
Pheromones.
smells different. So she'll go out looking for some strange. She'll meet someone who has broad shoulders, narrow waist, carries himself well, and her brain will say, this looks like a pretty good sperm donor. And she'll be very happy if he's prepared to drive the nail into the wood. Right? Can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. So if you meet a girl when she's in that place in her hormone cycle, which is about 3 days a month, so about 10% of her time, she's going to be looking around, checking out every guy she sees. She's going to be checking out his eyes, checking out his package, checking out his basket if he's turned the other way, just to see whether or not he's the sort of guy that looks like a good option. And then she's going to stare at him for a second to see whether he looks at her with intent. Because most guys, when they see a girl looking at them, they chicken out and they look away. So the secret for guys is when the girl is checking you out, smile. She'll look away to look back to see whether or not you're still checking her out. And if you are still checking her out, her brain starts to panic. It's really quite interesting. I've checked this with many, many women. As soon as a girl glances at me in a nightclub or wherever I'm standing, waiting to see a girl who's looking for a guy like me. This can be in a supermarket. This can be in a nightclub, a shopping venue, wherever. A girl is looking around because a girl who's in ovulation is scanning the horizon. No matter what else she's doing, she's looking around for the guy who's prepared to take her into a broom closet and bend her over. Okay? And when she sees a guy, she checks him out. And she thinks, I could do him. I could do him. Ooh, I could do both of them. And all the girls are having this moment. Any girl who's listening to this will be giggling, get out of my head, because every girl who's menstruating, every girl who's having a regular ovulatory, come on over here, babe.
Yeah.
Every girl will have this signal in her mind that she doesn't understand, that's happening without her say-so, and women generally pay no attention to their hormone cycles.
Mm,
Because every
yeah.
day they're looking at the world through the same pair of eyes, listening to the world through the same pair of ears, nothing seems to change except the world changes. And what's really happening is their hormones are changing. And when they're augmented by hormones that are saying, go find a guy to fuck you, then all of a sudden, all they're noticing is guys who could fuck them. And then when they're not in that mode, they're noticing the regular world as it is because they're not on drugs, even though these drugs are entirely endogenic, created within them, that they didn't choose to take. This is just how women's hormone cycles work, as women's hormone cycles generally want for them to become loaded up with sperm just as they're about to release an egg, so that the sperm doesn't have to travel 1,000,000 times its body length to get to where the egg is. Okay? When a woman is releasing an egg, her body has already changed her body chemistry. Her vag will be a lot more acidic than usual, so that as sperm enters, it gets its layer on its outside stripped away, which makes the sperm a lot more mobile, a lot more ambulatory. So that the sperm has a much easier time making its way to the fallopian tubes, to the uterus, so that it will be able to get to the egg. The sperm will also look for sperm donations from other vendors. Some of the sperms are hunter-seekers looking for other vendors' sperm to kill them off to increase their likelihood of being the ones that get the girl pregnant. Evolution has shown us that women have evolved to seek out multiple partners just before they ovulate because humans didn't evolve monogamy. If humans were lifelong pair bonders and sexually exclusive in nature, there would be no such word as marriage. There'd be no such word as cheating. We wouldn't have needed to make the words. These would things that would just automatically happen. We had to build a structure in which men imagined they owned women, that men imagined that they were supposed to buy the exclusive sexual right to access a woman through marriage. This is all human creation. As men started to develop, probably 15,000 years ago, or a little less than that, after the great freeze of the last great ice age, when suddenly all the perennial plants were growing in predictable places, because they would grow in the same place year after year, and men started to cordon off areas where there would be food, because they didn't have to go out hunting now. They could just stay there and guard that area, and then they got food. And so humans got really good at this idea of ownership of property, defense of territory. And then women started to look more and more like territory. Hey, if I put fertile seeds into that grassy knoll, I'm going to get product. All I have to do is keep it protected from others. Because without farming, humans have no idea of time or measurement of days or weeks. The idea that you'd have sex with someone and then 270 or so days later she'd give birth to a baby, and you're supposed to have hung around the whole time, and you're supposed to know that baby is yours. Wow, that's a really spectacular thing. If you don't have days of week, don't have weeks, don't have calendars, don't have months, right? So humans developed all of these constructions, including the idea of exclusivity, including the idea of marriage, of ownership and responsibility, when women became relegated to the universe of being thought of as possessions. And women started to understand their job as a little girl was to keep daddy happy, and daddy would be happy as long as he knew his little girl was going to be someone he could easily sell to another man to take responsibility for. And so she had to be a virgin, because the other guy wasn't going to pay for a girl who wasn't a virgin. If she wasn't a virgin, he wouldn't be able to be sure that her first child was his. And so the family's assets wouldn't necessarily get passed down through the patrilineal line. So when you start to realize the amount of totally bogus bullshit that all got created as humans started to have the idea of possessions, the ownership of property. So when you recognize there's nothing wrong with any of that. I love possessions. I love generating value. I love trading my surplus for the surplus of others. I'm a huge capitalist. I love being a great success in this world, making great things, and I give away all the value I can. I've got 100 hours of video content out there I've been giving away for more than 20 years. I don't charge for any of my content. The stuff that I'm on with Steve P, he makes 100% of the money from that. I'm very happy for him too. Our deal. He gave me access to a much bigger audience. I was fine with his earning a living off of it. That's fine. People come to me for direct coaching and consultation. I make my money off of that. That's fine. I just want the world to be a place where I want to live. And in order for it to be a place where I want to live, women have to be
Raise up
happy.
men.
Women have to be happy, and men have to stop being such assholes. So, as you say, in this second renaissance, the idea that men have to understand that we're not in competition with other men. We're in competition with previous versions of ourselves. We don't have to be better than the next guy. We just have to be better than we were last week. Because once we're good enough for ourselves, we'll discover that we're already good enough for women. They're desperately looking for men who broadcast effortlessly their own self-acceptance. It's quite staggering to me. Women can sense from across the room or across the street what a man believes about himself. Do you guys both understand that? A woman...
No, I don't. Explain a little more. That's deep.
A girl looks across the street. Okay, when you're in the Philippines, did you speak Tagalog or did you speak, I can't remember the other language.
I understood a little bit of it, but I use a lot of like Hawkman's micro expressions and the kind of like
So,
the
no. Well, humans have evolved without language. Language came after.
Yeah.
Okay? Men have been able to persuade women to bend over and have them fertilize them for 1,000,000+ years without language, without status symbols, without wealth. Okay? Men were able to establish whether other men would follow them and respect them without needing to demonstrate themselves as bossy. Humans have evolved to know who are independently able to make decisions and lead, and who are desperately looking for someone else to tell them they're a good boy. The ones who are prepared to and willing to lead are the ones the women find attractive. Okay? So when
you're across the street, like you're saying, I know there's kind of like that.
If you're full of shit, women have evolved to follow the lead of a man. Okay? This is not a sexist thing. This is the nature of human beings. A feminine person has evolved to follow the leadership of a confident masculine presence.
So their lie detector is really advanced nowadays, I would say then at that point. I mean,
sure, but it works not to detect what they say. It works to detect what they subcommunicate about how they feel. Remember, if you're trying to appear impressive, that subcommunicates to everybody that their opinion of you is more important than your own opinion of you. I can't think of anything that makes a person smaller than when other people know that what other people think of them is more important than what they know about themselves. Okay? A woman can sense when you're trying to appear impressive. A woman can sense when you're trying to big yourself up. When it's obvious that you don't give a flying fuck about what other people think of you.
Right.
You look huge.
So circle back what you're saying. So I didn't speak Tagalog, but like in the Philippines, you're gonna give me an example of your explanation.
If you're walking down the road in Manila, and you're smiling happily because you are in fact a happy guy, there are lovely, beautiful people around you. You know that you're a big fish in a very small pond. The number of men who love and respect themselves, who own their shit, and operate guiltlessly, loving and appreciating women, not expecting anything from them, but just being delighted that women exist.
Yeah.
The number of men like that will be way less than 1 in 100.
Wow.
But every one man who exists, who demonstrates those first 3 absolutely necessary categories, he must love and respect himself.
Okay.
Okay. This means he has boundaries that he won't allow other people to break. He owns his shit. He knows what he's gotten through to get to where he is now. He recognizes all the mistakes he's made that he's learned from, and he doesn't regret them, but he knows he wouldn't make those again.
Right? You learn from your wisdom. You learn
That's
from
right.
experience. Yeah.
That's right. So any man who walks the street not feeling he's got anything left to prove,
Yeah.
he is who he is. He feels he's arrived because where he is where he believes he ought to be.
Yeah.
Okay? So that man isn't beholden to anybody else's approval.
Yeah.
He's an independent. He makes decisions that suit him, recognizes when other people don't like it very much, but unless he admires those people as individuals, why the fuck should he care what they think about him?
Right.
He is the
right.
emperor of his own universe.
Okay. He's
Ooh,
the
I
boss.
like
He's
that.
the captain of his ship. So
Yeah.
now about 1 in 5 on average men will ever reach that state, and most young men don't reach it at all. But a 1 in 5, so let's say 20%, about 20% of men will ever reach the point where they are self-accepting, to the point where they don't feel that they're constantly seeking out where they are on the hierarchy.
That's that high? People that do that? I never knew. I don't know the number.
That's
That-
lifetime. There will be men who don't reach that point till they're in their late 50s, okay?
Yeah.
Their kids are fully grown. Their wife is out doing her own thing, doing lots of volunteer things. They have a secretary or a mistress they have sex with from time to time. They're walking around feeling good about themselves.
I bet.
That's fine. But you see, you don't have to be in that place. The truth is, as soon as you start to recognize that paying attention to the opinion of people you don't admire is fucking madness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Living your life fearing disapproval of people who have no value in your world, that's utterly self-destructive. So about 5%, so about 1 in 20 men will reach the point of true independence where about
That
5%,
low?
only about
Wow.
1 in 20 men walk
no
the
idea.
street.
Are you kidding me?
No, I want you to take a minute and just hear me out. Just play this game with yourself, okay? Think about all the men you know. Even the men who've been through your courses, the men you know, absolutely know how to facilitate women's cathartic release and spiritual refreshment through full body orgasm.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that's a powerful fucking magic.
Yeah. Oh man, it clears up the chakras.
Absolutely.
Dude, like
So,
I love the
now-
language you're speaking. Stay on,
so
stay on.
I am in the world. I'm a specialist in being a generalist. I specialize in having a tremendously broad general understanding, not super deep in most areas, of course, because I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Your
But-
plate's full.
But my job is to be able to help people come to understanding using language and metaphor they will quickly appreciate. So I have to have a pretty good idea of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Good news is, in particular, I know a good deal about the Philippines. I know a good deal about massage therapy. I know a good deal. These are areas in which I can be a lot further and more in depth. But for the purposes of the conversation and for the purposes of ICE and whatever and whomever else is listening, the thing that matters is that overwhelmingly every woman in the world, if asked, will admit that what she craves in a lifetime partner to whom she will be emotionally invested, a man she'll be in love with, is going to have 4 traits. 4. Okay. They will be the same for every man. The 4, the first 3 of them I've already been through a few times, but I'll say them again. 4 are: he must love and respect himself, show up in the world as a confident masculine presence who knows who he is, how he came to be that way.
So that eliminates all the black pill guys.
Yeah,
Immediately.
all the negative, all the
Yeah.
all the self-hating guys,
Yeah.
all the people who have anxiety and stress towards the system and blame the system. The system is shitty, but the only reason you're still in it is because you haven't emancipated yourself. Anyone who thinks of themselves as being an alpha male, being a beta is terrible, being an omega is the worst. Anyone who looks at all these things and takes that seriously hasn't transcended. I refer to myself and my colleagues as past alpha. Okay? In truth, I coined the term aloha male. There's only one letter difference between alpha male and aloha male. Just rotate one letter forward. An aloha male has an aloha appreciation, part of the universe. I live the world completely happy and living in peace with everything. I am not in competition for women. So long as I continue to be the man I am, virtually every woman I meet is going to want to have something to do with me. And most often that's going to end up with our being in bed. And that's great.
Yeah.
So with a totally non-alpha, non-pushy, non-demanding, not requiring, because alphas need the attention of others in order to feel actualized. A person who is
Actualize me. What's the synonym
When-
to actualize?
whole, complete.
Okay. Gotcha.
Remember
Okay.
this. A woman does not want to find a man who's looking for a woman to complete him.
Yeah, exactly.
A woman needs a man who is complete to
Yeah.
attach herself to.
Yeah.
Every man who feels incomplete without a woman will never inspire a woman. Okay,
Right?
it's one of these wonderful catch-22s of life.
Yeah.
If you need a woman, you'll never be able to inspire one. What you need is to be holistically complete as you are. Then women will climb out of the fucking woodwork to attach themselves to you, and you may find something where it's not you complete her at a cost to yourself. It's
Yeah.
that you two complement one another so that it's not she came in with 50%, you came in with 50%, now you're 100%. It's
Yeah.
you came in with 100%, she
Yeah.
came in with 90%,
Yeah.
now she's at 100%, and you two are 200%.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when life gets wonderful.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So coming back, most men live their lives never feeling that they don't still have to prove themselves, never feeling that they can accept themselves as they are and how they are, recognizing that where they are on their journey, which is continuous,
Yeah.
is sufficient. I can say this personally. I coined this term about 20 years ago, and it's never been more accurate than right now. The world is full of men afflicted by delusions of inadequacy.
Wow.
They're
Yeah.
not colossal fuck-ups, but they're
Yeah.
convinced they are.
Wow.
It's not that they're not good enough. It's
Yeah.
they've convinced themselves that they can't be good enough.
Wow.
And so their egos turn them into their bitches, as their egos are constantly saying, you're not living up to what you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're a
Yeah.
failure. Stay small. Don't you dare do anything new. If you try, you might fail. And if we fail, that would be a disaster for the ego.
Yeah.
So the world is full of men who make no progress, who are unwilling to stand up, who are unwilling to be noticed, who are unwilling to take a chance, and therefore never make any attempts. And you see, it's a wonderful thing about the word success. A success is merely one of a succession of successive successes, each one succeeding the previous one. Did you notice how that word fits in so well with itself? It's because successfulness is the feeling that one gets when they have enough history of successes, a success just being an attempt.
Yeah.
Okay? A success is the outcome of an attempt. If you make no attempt, you have no success. To make no attempt guarantees failure.
Yeah.
To make an attempt guarantees a success. Now, a success may be a dreadfully bad one. A success may be one of the succession of successes that weren't positive, that taught you what not to do.
Right.
But a success is merely a result. No attempt, no result.
You
No
miss 100
attempt,
shots. Wayne Gretzky said, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you're not going to
Exactly.
take a shot, if you're not going to put yourself out there, you ain't gonna." That's why that whole keyboards jockey syndrome is everywhere now.
And
It's
so
just
and so I look around and I see men. There's a wonderful line in the movie Fight Club. How much can you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight? Most men today have striven their entire lives to avoid ever having to be in a fist fight. I'm not suggesting you get into a fist fight.
right. Yeah.
I'm saying if someone offends you ethically to the point that allowing them to walk away from you, having just pushed you around or bullied you or upset you,
Mhm.
will make you feel much worse about yourself than getting punched in the face trying to defend yourself well.
Right.
You'll feel a lot more like you defended your boundaries, held
Yeah.
your frame, and
Defending your
owned your
boundaries.
shit.
I like how you said that. Defending the boundaries. That's like, I remember that David's with Dr. Paul. I watched that whole program, and what I learned from that that was so amazing with Dr. Paul's stuff was that how he drew the diagrams and explained boundaries and went through the whole system, and that was probably. I watched a lot of the old school stuff. There's plenty out there. But what I liked about it, I watched it a few times, was that when David and Paul were talking, and it was a great combination because you had that, it's like, you had amazing doctor and an amazing dating
Biker.
coach. When they came together, that's when I first heard your CD of the month. I heard you, and I was like, I like how this guy talks. Like, this is like my style. And then, years later, I seen you in a video and with
Thing
stuff.
is,
So
Eben had a problem. They couldn't call me Johnny Soporno because he was concerned about how that would play out.
yeah, I understand.
It was also a problem because email servers would find PORN in my surname and
Yeah,
censor me.
wow.
So these days, in
Oh, I
order to
thought that was
avoid
like your
that,
pen name. I thought that
it
was your
is,
pen name.
it is. But I usually
Yeah.
send out email these days as Johnny Sopomo,
Oh,
POMO, because
yeah.
when you see Sopomo, but you think Soporno, they are
Yeah.
identical. You're typing
Holy
it.
shit, I just realized on Zoom it says Sopomo.
Absolutely.
Fuck. It took two near 3 fucking hours to see that.
Right, because when you're looking for Johnny Soporno and you see Johnny Sopomo, you read it as RN and you don't notice the space between the two letters. Okay?
That's cool.
So I taught this to Hypnotica when Eric first released MetaHore. I said, I'm going to register for you. I registered the domain METAVVHORE so that he could send out email that everyone reads as MetaHore, but it's actually MetaVV.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I'm an old school geek as well as an old school life coach. Anyway, so where this comes back,
Mhm.
so the first thing a man has to be in order to show up as a powerful, effective masculine presence, first one, he has to own his shit, know
Yeah.
who he is,
Mhm.
have plenty of regrets over the things he did wrong, but none of them that follow forward. When you
Yeah.
own your shit, you've digested it and left it at the side of the road, so you don't have to carry that shit with you everywhere you go.
Right.
You already know what mistakes you've made, and now the person you are, knowing you've made those mistakes, doesn't need to make those mistakes anymore. So you
Right.
walk around not stinking of that desperation cologne because you're not
Yeah.
carrying your shit with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have I made mistakes? Fuckloads. That's
Yeah.
why I seldom make mistakes anymore.
That's why Paul said, "Don't look back."
Yeah.
When you wake up the next day, it's like you delete empty trash file and you go forward, and like
Precisely.
that, one day at a time. Like a lot of people, I think is thinking the state mind and
They
being able to just
they
think
can't
positive about
free
yourself.
themselves
Wow.
from carrying around their baggage. But it's not their baggage once they've finished it. When you've
Yeah.
processed the meal, you've gotten all the nutritive value out of it, shit it out and leave it behind. Dragging it
Yeah.
with you doesn't help.
Yeah.
So now the second stage. First one is man has to love and appreciate himself and respect himself. He has his boundaries. He will not allow other people to violate.
Yeah.
He's not about to bend for the girl who says, "Oh, let's do this. If we wear ballerina uniforms to my company Christmas party, it'd be so much fun." If you don't feel like doing that, if it's not something that suits your idiom, if you don't wish to, say no.
Yeah.
The girl will go, "Oh, come on, come on." But you have to understand, if she's not prepared to offer you a contract of appreciation where
Yeah.
you're doing a favor for her, is
Right.
recognized by her as you're doing this for her.
Yeah.
If you just bend to suit her whim, She totally
Never gonna
refuses.
end.
She'll never, ever respect you.
Yeah.
She needs to know that you will hold your boundaries. And if she wants something else, she has to negotiate with you. Perhaps
Yeah.
she'll say, look, this is not something I would enjoy.
Yeah.
But because you will enjoy it and I will enjoy seeing you happy, I'm prepared to do this for you. I will do this for you. So there's a contract of appreciation. I will
Yeah.
do this as long as you will appreciate that this was a sacrifice I made for you.
Yeah.
Girl, go okay with this. Most girls will say, no, it's not that big a deal, because they don't want to have to acknowledge that you've done this for them. They want for you to have done this for you, because then they don't have to owe you anything.
Yeah, they want you to lie to yourself indirectly. In a way.
So let's follow this down. The second thing is a man must love, treasure, and appreciate women.
Yeah.
Not full of angst or anxiety or hatred or spite. He can't look at women as the enemy. He can't look at women as trouble. He has to look at women as an absolutely delightful, wondrous thing.
Like Don Juan DeMarco. That was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Sure. Or as Zan always says, a woman wants to be taken on an adventure. She doesn't want to be your adventure. She wants you to thrive in feminine contact.
Yeah.
I need women. I don't need for women to need me. I understand that all women by default are going to imagine I want them. All women by default need to look at men imagining those men want them. And in fact, they very badly want you to want them. Now, if it looks like you're distaff or disdainful or not wanting them, they may well try harder to get you to want them. I don't like to play those games. I probably would if I didn't like myself very much, if I honestly believed that I had to look up at them and that they were going to be looking down at me. All of Eric's mystery, all of his negging, it's not about insulting girls. It's about knocking them off their pedestal so that you can communicate with them at ground level. My thing is, I never consider myself at ground level. Okay? If a girl is feeling great about herself on a high horse, that's fine. That's where I am. I'm a man who owns his shit. I don't have anything left to prove. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm going to lead my life my way. Why in the world would I think myself on the level of all those normals who are so afraid of being disapproved of by people they don't know? They don't even exist. People would ask me why I would go to porn industry parties where there were 20 super hot girls who had no reputation to defend. They were all known as being heavily sexual. When I knew there'd be 500 or 1,000 dudes there trying to get those girls' attention. I would say, I don't go to the party to be one of the 1,000 dudes who's there. I go to the party to be the one of me, and there are 20 women I might find interesting. If I go to a regular club, there might be 5 women I might find interesting, and several of them will probably be there with dates.
Yeah.
A whole lot easier.
Fish in a barrel. Fish in a barrel.
Exactly. Or ducks on a barrel if you want to be more clear about it. Because they're all up on top and you don't have to look for them.
Okay. Oh, I like that. I like that.
I don't look at other men as competition. I look at other men as guys whom I either will enjoy involving myself with or won't notice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's beautiful and elegant and simple. If a guy tries to alpha male me, I just look at him like, what? I'm
What's
sorry.
the point?
Huh? Right? Because I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to do my thing. Okay. If you're concerned that I happen to be surrounded by 6 hot girls, trying to prove yourself to me is whatever, dude. There's plenty. Enjoy yourself, right? Because I'm not going to lose any of these girls because you're here. I don't have the girls. They have them, and they're choosing to be around me. I don't own anybody. I have no influence over these. I'm not. If I decide to leave, odds are many of the girls will want to leave with me. If I tell them I've got room, they'll leave with me.
A lot of guys don't realize this too. What they don't realize is that, and I see this working, in the hotel industry, casino, where I go to the cocktail, service bar, and I listen to them. And the thing they laugh and giggle about the most is how I don't know what the word would be. I can't think of like a funny word, but how untalented men are, and how they hit on them, and how like they just laugh about it. So when they get into that like rhythm, like you're talking about as well, it's like when they try to come into that situation, they don't even have enough self-awareness, or they're just newbies. I don't know, where it's like you want to befriend the guy. Hey, what's up, man? Respect,
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
reversing it, and it's like you just drop value by coming into that circle and not adding value.
I would like to enlighten the world. Okay.
Yeah,
I take it on a sort of bodhisattva role.
I haven't heard that yet.
Bodhisattva is the idea that until the whole world is ready to attain nirvana,
Yeah,
I'm going to hang
Well,
around
most of
and
that
keep
way.
spreading the word. Now, the good news is for me, most of the time, the word is legs, and I'm real happy spreading that word. But I want for men
Yeah.
to understand that the more self-accepting, self-directed, self-respecting they are,
Yeah,
the better received they'll be by
Mm.
everyone else.
yeah,
This is not about arrogance. This is about self-acceptance. Okay?
yeah.
So I explain to people all the time, I am the most selfish person you'll ever meet, because the only reason I do anything is because I believe it's going to make me feel better about me.
Yeah.
Anything I do, I don't want gratitude from anybody. I don't need that shit. I do appreciate appreciation,
Yeah,
but I don't want anyone feeling they owe me anything. I'm giving what I'm giving absolutely freely with the hope that you're going to appreciate it and take value from it, and that appreciation will be all the food I need.
yeah.
The knowledge that people are hearing what I have to say and applying it in their world is fucking fantastic.
That's
so-
what kept me going with stuff, is the same principle, where for me it was like I just did this to help guys out. I was going to put a website up.
It's what
and
makes
move on.
you it's
Yeah,
what makes you the sort of person that can be of benefit to the world.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
If you're only doing it because you want to get paid for it,
Yeah, I could have went something a lot more wealthier than this. Trust me.
exactly.
If I would have applied myself differently. Yeah.
So the truth is, I don't have a problem with people paying me for what I contribute to their lives. I make their lives much, much better.
Yeah.
But I may be the only personal development coach in the history of the world who's offered a lifetime money-back guarantee to every single client I've ever had.
Wow.
100% money-back guarantee forever. If there's ever a point that and I say this on all my recordings, anyone wants to go to themselves, shit, I'm broke. Maybe I can call Johnny up and get the $5,000 I paid to him back.
Yeah.
No, they call me up. I say, listen, if you just need cash, I'll spot you $5,000.
Right? Don't fuck my chargeback percentages.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter is, in all my years of doing this, I've had basically no dissatisfied customers ever, because what I share is real.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like I say, guys, what's my job? I'm a motivational speaker with content. At the end of it, you don't just have a good feeling about yourself. You have a whole bunch of understanding as to why things are so broken.
Yeah.
And how easy it would be to free yourself from running on that treadmill that leads to nowhere.
Yeah.
So we come back to what I started with, okay? First thing, man has to love and respect and appreciate himself. He has to own his shit. Then he has to absolutely love and appreciate women. Not be angry with them for not being receptive to him. Not be angry with them for having broken his heart before. Just love them and appreciate them and accept them for how they are. Because they're not like us in their upbringing, their style, their philosophies of life. Girls are taught from childhood that lying is appropriate. In fact, it's necessary. If I ask 1,000 men, how many of your dear friends do you not believe you can trust? They'll look at me like, huh? What? How could I have a friend I didn't trust? Being able to trust them is number one on the requirements. Women routinely have dear friends they don't trust. Men love their friends. Women often hate their dear friends. Girls will go out for dinner once a week with someone who afterwards they spend the entire hour with their partner running down how awful this person is that they go out with every week as though they're good friends. Okay?
Stacy's such a whore.
Exactly. You go through your life listening and you realize men get together and they say awful, nasty shit to one another right from the word go, but it's okay because they don't mean anything by it. Women get together and they say sweet, complimentary, respectful things right away, but it's okay because they don't mean anything by it.
Yeah. That's why you don't want to let your woman hear your locker room talk with the boys.
Oh, you see, I've got the exact opposite. My
Yeah.
woman with whom I've been with for 20 years of October
Yeah.
as a
Wow.
couple, we've been
Yeah.
together 20 years. I have never once lied to her or kept anything hidden. We have a
Yeah.
totally open relationship.
Yeah.
She is my best friend. She is my most favorite sex partner. She
Yeah.
has licked my semen off most of the faces of most of the girls I've been to bed with the last 20 years. She knows about every other girl I've been with. She has made and advertised and put on Facebook and on YouTube things inviting new girls to have a great time with me because I'm going to knock their socks off, and she can't wait to hear about it and maybe see photos that they've allowed me to take, because she's completely in favor of each of us encouraging our partner to have the best life we can.
Okay.
Because you see, the thing is, the reason 50% of first marriages end in divorce, and by the way, that's not the scary part of that, okay?
No.
That means that half of them end in death.
Uh,
Now, the thing about first marriages is many people in the first marriage, they don't realize they can get out of it. So lots of people live their entire life always miserable and unhappy
yeah.
after the infatuation is worn away and they've gotten to know their partner.
Yeah.
But about half of them get out of the relationship through divorce.
Yeah.
About 80% of second marriages end in divorce. What's that big uptick? Is because once you realize that you can be divorced and still get on with life, your reason for staying in the marriage has dropped by a whole lot if you're not happy.
Yeah.
These statistics are easily provable. I'm not making this shit up or pulling it on my
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
So when you start to realize that most people get married to a stranger, most people marry someone they met while they were infatuated to them and therefore interpreted them the way they wanted them to be. And most people, the biggest job of maintaining their relationship with their partner is continuing to pretend to be the way they pretended to be during the seduction phase.
Well, that's a lot of work.
And so the reason you don't want your girl hearing you in your locker room, you're looking around both ways before you say something on the phone to your buddy, is because you spend so much of your time pretending to be the way that you know your wife or partner needs you to be, because you pretended to be that way during the infatuation phase when you wanted them to choose you.
Mm.
Now, I've never been anything other than me. I am exactly the same way, Monday through Friday, and on the weekends, every day. I'm the same guy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I say the same thing. I do not lie. The only woman I've lied to in the last 20 years was a tax auditor, okay? I can't imagine telling any woman anything that she might discover was untrue when someday soon I'm going to have my dick in her throat, and after I come, I'm going to be completely helpless and passed out. Why would I want to leave myself in her hands if she had any reason to be angry with me?
Yeah.
So given the presumption that someday soon every girl I make friends with is going to have me asleep while she's there, I never lie to women. I consider that a smart domestic policy.
I've been around a lot of conservatives in my upbringing, so I've seen that often.
It's fabulous. You see, people mistake me for conservative. I'm about as libertine as you can get.
Yeah.
Live your life your way. Be true to yourself. Don't break your own code. And so here's where it gets funny. The third thing that every woman craves, 'cause the first thing she needs is a man who loves and respects himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Second thing is that same man must love and treasure and appreciate women, despite the fact that women are not men.
Yeah.
He's got to be okay with the fact that she needs to keep little secrets for absolutely no reason. That she'll bullshit, lie about stuff for no reason, just so she can maintain that sensation of having a little secret privacy.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Women lie about stuff that means nothing, and if we get all uptight about it, we'll never be able to maintain that friendship.
Let me ask you a question. Go on. I'll ask at the end.
Well, okay. The third thing that's critically important is the man must demonstrate wordlessly that he is comfortable and confident enough to make his own mind up. He must be able to make a decision and lead. Okay? Every woman craves the company of someone who's a confident masculine presence. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Who loves and respects himself and owns his shit. Who loves and appreciates and treasures women. These
Yeah.
two.
Okay, check mark.
And who can make a decision and lead. He doesn't have to always check in and say, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
A woman wants a man to make a decision and lead. She wants a man to say, this is what I've got in mind. Would you like for me to bring you with me? Would you like me to take you along? I'd love to bring you along with me. Girl will say yes. You don't say, how about dinner Thursday? Okay, sounds great. And you say, what do you want to have? She'll say, no, I don't want that. No, I don't. You make the decision. I've found a really great Italian restaurant. I'd love to take you for dinner next Thursday. Do you like Italian? Sure.
Yeah.
I really don't. Do you have a preference?
Oh,
Tell
I
me
like how
what you like,
Yeah,
and I'll see what I can find.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I know a great Thai restaurant if that's what.
Bring it back to you leading. If you
She
offer something,
wants
doesn't
to
want it.
hand you the reins. She wants to be able to go, okay, I am now in your hands. Show me a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so every woman craves a man who clearly broadcasts without effort that he loves himself, he's playfully confident, he's enthusiastic about the world, he's not mopey and grim and unhappy. He loves women, checks them out, and is happy about their existence. He's very enthusiastic about her. He is not full of acrimony or anger or hostility. And he will make choices and say, this is what I've got in mind, let's do this. And if she's got a better idea, he'll say, okay, let's do that. But otherwise, he'll say, okay, well then I'm going to do it and I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Because when a man is able to lead, she can feel comfortable in following. And that's what she wants from a masculine partner. Now, the fourth thing, the magic bullet, if you like, is he has to demonstrate that he's emotionally and intellectually interested in her as an individual.
Yeah. Okay. Say it one more time. That was deep. I like the last one.
A woman needs a man who's interested in who she is as a person, what she's interested in, why she likes this, why she doesn't, so that the decisions he makes in leading will take into account things he understands about her.
Yes.
That way, she doesn't have to worry about his taking her to a strip club if she's going to be upset by that.
Yeah.
But she can be happy he's going to take her to a strip club if he knows she'd be into that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So let's come back to the urgent part, the thing that you do for men, which is help them and help women learn how to give this chakra aligning, psychologically reframing, consciousness enhancing, full body, primal ejaculatory orgasm.
Yes.
And this is your bailiwick, so why don't you pick it up?
Let's I got a question leading into this actually. So let me just ask this, and then it's very similar. How can you help a woman squirt? Are all women capable of doing it?
Okay. If a woman wishes to, virtually certainly either of us will be able to help her. If she's not so in emotionally and psychologically caught up in not permitting it, if she can get past her egoic resistance, then virtually certainly she can be led to squirt. If she can lubricate her vagina, if her vagina can lubricate itself, she has the mechanism necessary to squirt. Okay, the Cowper's fluid, the Skene's glands, these fill up so that a woman can generate lubrication so she can get sex. Biologically necessary thing. A vagina is not penetrable on its own without causing her a lot of pain without lubrication. So it makes its own. In the same way as you don't have to have a source for the saliva in your mouth, your cheeks release this. You have salivatory glands. The Skene's gland is just like a saliva gland, just for vaginal lubricant.
Mhm.
Okay? And in the same way as you have sets of lips up here and down there, where you have sets of lips, you're going to have glands to make lubricant.
Mhm.
So any woman who can lubricate, any woman who can enjoy sex, should be able to be persuaded and relieved and released enough to be ejaculatory. But no woman needs to have a female ejaculation.
Yeah.
It's just once she starts to get comfortable with it, it will open her world tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. That's perfect.
Thank you. Well, I got 3 decades of having people
I
understand this
know.
behind me.
Well, so for one to that, what are the best positions or techniques for triggering squirting?
If a girl doesn't squirt on her own already, you'll probably have a better time if your penis tends to tilt up, if you're in rear entry position,
Mm.
where she's lying on her belly, on her knees, or standing up at the edge of the bed, so that the place that the corona of your penis, the ridge of your penis, will be going over both her anterior fornix erogenous, which is an area that needs to be stimulated in order to trigger her cervix to maneuver itself into a position so that she can be in baby catching mode, and so that her G spot will become very engorged with Cowper's fluid, with Skene's gland fluid, because that's what needs to be triggered in order for squirting. Now, some girls will simply flood or gush. Some girls will actually have full-on ejaculatory releases from the Skene's gland. Much more often, they'll have these ejaculatory releases from their urethra, so they'll think they're peeing.
Yeah.
So before you take a girl to bed, ask her to empty herself but good,
Yeah.
so that she's not worried when 5 minutes later what you're doing, which is probably going to be touching an area of her G-spot, and her brain is going, I feel like I've got to pee, but I
Yeah.
know there's no pee in there.
Yeah.
And then a few minutes later, when she has the monumental ejaculatory release and she floods out a huge quantity of fluid, she won't believe how much liquid came out. She'll know it wasn't pee. She'd already peed everything out of her bladder. And this will make it a lot easier for her to get comfortable with it. Yes, female ejaculation is A, a thing, B, a desirable thing, C, isn't just a bunch of piss, and D, the guy is fucking thrilled. He's not upset. Okay? Because women whom I've known over many years who would spray or sprinkle, okay, during sex, because they wouldn't necessarily have the necessary sensation to bring them all the way, but they would be having a great time, would be very intimidated. They were worried that men wouldn't be able to handle it, or that the fact that about 60% of most not intended to be ejaculatory fluid will have some urine in it, some urea in it, so it will have a pissy smell. Lots of girls get very upset. They go, I pissed myself. No, you squirted. Yes, there was some piss in there. We'll live with it. Okay? We're fine with it. Okay? You suck my dick. It's what I pissed through. You're prepared to deal with this? I'm prepared to deal with this. So it's like having a tattoo that says, I eat ass, right? Well, you don't even have to go that far. When a girl knows you want her to squirt, her brain goes, oh, good, he can deal. It's the same thing as I said to the guys earlier. When you've got a plugged into the bed, baseball bat style, but small little, Tachi magic wand or whatever, the girl goes, oh, this guy wants to ensure I've had a great time. So I don't have to worry about it. All right. I'm not going to have to go home and jerk myself off afterwards.
It's gonna be a win-win. It's gonna be a win-win situation at the worst.
Exactly. Win, win, or walk has been my lifestyle philosophy. If I feel that it's transactional, I'm not going to hang around.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my best game. Hope you are too. Let's see whether or not we're going to make beautiful music together. Is this going to be concert jazz? What the hell we're going to do?
Right.
Anyway, so regarding squirting, please continue with the questions. The answer to that one is any woman who wishes to can be taught to squirt.
Yeah.
If she doesn't want to, pretty much nobody is certainly going to be able to make her squirt any more than a man can make her have an orgasm.
And to add to that, you know, this and like I said, Johnny's the guru. I mean, Steve, like I've always daydreamed about talking to you guys. One thing I noticed that I studied a little bit too, and OBGYN was able to. This adds value to what he's saying. Is the sphincter muscle. So psychologically, I've noticed that the sphincter muscle will stay. It's like a virgin sphincter, and it won't open up. Right. It won't open up. I've had women on the table where I have them for. I think my record's 2 minutes and 47 seconds continuous squirt at my prime. And I got the girl going, continue. She wouldn't squirt, but I could hear the squishing of the urethral sponge.
Yep.
And what I realized was that I had
Filling.
to, yeah, filling.
It has to refill itself while
And
you're
I
going.
realized that until like the next session or whatever, I forget the whole memory. But in short, what happened was when I got to more of an intimacy level, and she was relaxing, like kind of the emotional, she relaxed. Then she started squirting, stuff like that. And I have been able to, and I don't do, I mean, I ask permission before I do this. I will say, if a girl doesn't want to squirt, I can get past the sphincter aspect of it, but I'll walk her through and explain it to her. But it ultimately, just like any sphincter muscle, you can squeeze it, stuff like that. But I have had girls like, I have this block, and I want to do it, but I can't. I just block. So then, like, I can physically, it helps to be, like, see, Johnny might know, seasoned or in shape. You might have to go for a long period of time, which means you have to get a 31-pound sex torso doll and practice on that. You know, like if you're a martial artist and you're kicking and punching, what do you use? A bag, right? So same thing.
Yeah.
Johnny's absolutely right. Like that's
Okay, guys, everyone, practice Stoll. Okay, it's not creepy. It's for practice. Everyone, go to Amazon.com right now and get yourselves a sex doll.
Well,
Boom.
you know, you can work it any way you like. I'll tell you, the last time I had a full-on sex doll, it was a full-on real doll by the manufacturer, because the distributor of that also was a video game publisher that I was good friends with, and I had gotten myself a gig shooting and doing content generation about 20 miles north of Los Angeles Airport. And you'd think a direct line up that freeway, which was possible, would be about 25 minutes. But it was more like 2.5 hours, because even though they had a high occupancy vehicle lane, if I was driving alone, the traffic was so ungodly terrible along the 405 that it would take me 2.5 hours to get there and 2.5 hours to get back. So I borrowed a real doll, put it in the passenger seat of my car, put a big cell phone in its hand, so it looked like it was on the phone in case you drove, and changed my 25 minute, my 2.5 hour drive to a 25-minute drive back and forth because of the girl sitting in the passenger seat of my car. The best application of a sex doll I've ever found.
Oh man, you put the convertible top down on that.
I was driving a Sebring convertible. I had the
Oh,
this big, buxom, beautiful blonde, and the cars. I'd be driving in the high occupancy vehicle lane. It would look like she was on the phone. Cops would glance over, go, obviously a porn starlet, because she had a body that was ridiculous proportions. And they'd have no problem. I'd get to the place, I'd carry her in over my shoulder, fireman's carry. I'm going to leave this $5,000 artifact I'd be lent.
like 110 pounds dummy shit.
Well, she was only about 70, but anyway, the point was like, carry her inside. It was hysterical. But yes, it does make sense. If you want to become a good videographer, you make yourself a couple of plates of 10-pound weights, and you carry them around so you'll be able to carry a 15-pound video camera for an hour at a time. If you want to be able to get a girl to squirt, and you know you're going to have to do this, buy yourself some weights, get yourself a dumbbell, and practice. Muscle requires time.
Yeah.
Got to build these things. So coming back to the squirting thing, every woman will be a much happier person if she can have profound teargasms, okay, orgasms in which all of the stresses and catharsis, all the guilts and shames, all the bullshit that's stopping her from being at one with her body.
Is that part of the chakra, or is that just something different?
You can call it. You can
Yeah.
use. You can
Yeah.
say that it's heart centric, heart chakra,
Oh,
or
okay.
you can. I don't go in for most mysticism. Okay, I
Yeah.
appreciate Ayurvedic medicine.
Yeah.
I appreciate Shiatsu and Doin as parts of reflexology. I've studied all of these things because I like to see, but a lot of the time there's a whole bunch of structure built onto them that doesn't need to be there.
Okay.
You don't. You can call it chakra. Fine.
Yeah.
You can say that
Yeah.
the reason this plate, if I let go of this plate, it's going to hit the ground and shatter. And I
Yeah.
say, tell me without using religious terms why that's going to happen. And I let go of the plate, it falls to the ground, it breaks. He said it was gravity. I say, okay, well, tell me what is gravity if it's not a religious term? In other words, if it's not just saying it's God's will, it's the way things are. Because gravity is just a description of the effect. Nobody can explain how fast gravity works. No one can explain where gravity comes from, how long gravity lasts. It's just a word so that we have a way of describing something that without a word we couldn't
Yeah.
describe.
Okay.
So I am good with engineering. I'm very good with understanding that an airplane that weighs a huge amount can fly in the air, apparently unsupported. I'm
Yeah.
good with that. It's not magic. It's completely understandable science.
Yeah.
Because we have ways of explaining to ourselves and to others
Yeah.
what's going on. Well, I'm not going to tell you that the purge is chakra related. I'm going to tell you that whatever part of your spirit, be it purely mental, cerebral, emotional, whatever,
Yeah.
a woman who can purge the unneeded, unnecessary baggage of negative experiences
Yeah.
will absolutely live a much happier, friendlier, more confident, more self-accepting life. And there ain't nothing like helping a girl learn to confidently squirt
Yeah.
to help her reset all of that bullshit and leave it behind her.
So I never had a girl cry like. I mean, I had maybe the sexual cry afterwards. Maybe it's more like, you know, but like in
Wait,
regards
they're
to
not unhappy. They're going, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
crying.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know why
yeah,
I can't stop myself.
But I never had a girl
It's-
cry in any way, except for one time she was crying afterwards. But in short, it was like it was emotional stuff, and I don't know, it was,
Yeah, it's purge.
or whatever. But
It's
the purge
fine.
of having a girl on the table and she's crying because she's happy and she's joy. I never experienced that with the girl.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. This won't be with all people. Remember, most girls that show up at your workshop
Yeah.
are coming there because they've already made peace with the idea that they want to have better sex.
Yeah.
So they're not super hung up. They're not coming there with primal anxiety or suffering from frigidity or
Yeah.
right? Whereas a lot of the people that have shown up at my door were young up and coming porn starlets who were purely doing it for the money or
Difficult.
purely
Like
doing it
type of,
because their baby daddy said, you're really hot. You could support my drug habit and the cost of raising your child if you'll go and do those things that you end up doing drunk every week on camera.
Yeah, I feel it.
It's kind of depressing, and most of the reason that the world has changed in the porn industry, there's no longer so much a need for a psychological aspect because virtually every girl who goes in to do porn knows she could or could not. It's entirely up to her.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
if she's got serious body issues because she knows there's a market out there. People will gladly pay. Look at the people who make their living off OnlyFans. It's every sort of woman.
Yeah.
Yep.
So given the
There's like 1 in
taste,
10 women between certain ages are on that. Yeah. That's a lot.
I have 100% respect for any woman who self-sustains.
Yeah. Me too.
I don't care what she does as long as she's not harming anyone and she's not harming herself.
Exactly.
So coming back to that with regards to squirting, some women get very caught up because they end up flooding the bed every time they have sex and then they need to change the mattress and so it helps as a man to make sure you've got basically puppy pee pads,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff
Garbage
so that
bag.
she is not worried that the repercussions of this are going to be negative. Okay, no girl wants to leave blood stains on the mattress.
Yeah.
So she'll wear a pad when she knows she's having menstruation. Same thing. You just want to buy some puppy pee pads, basically some plastic backed but absorbent. Um, uh, they say Always has wings. Red Bull has wings. You drink your Red Bull, throw it on the Always, and get to work. You wanna help the girl feel no concerns about having regret.
So what about for you? You have way more experience than me. I started doing it around 2000. I don't know, maybe like 11 or 12, 10, 11, 12. My question to you is that so I found it, and everyone's different. I've seen guys teach in the bed, but when I'm practicing with girls, even especially relationships, I get $110 massage table off Amazon, and I start them off on the table because it feels like
It
could be
feels
like
more clinical. It relaxes them.
yeah, and it could be you could have the scenery like it's a incense meditation, or you could have it more kind of like Westerner, where it's like the massage table and you got a little, everything professional. But to answer your question, Ice, I find that when you're starting off, or if you have a girlfriend, grab them, get a massage table and play with that, because ergonomically it's easier and it's better in the beginning. Because once you master on the table and you know your girl's vagina inside and out, like everything. I mean, everything. When you get into the bed, there you go. Like that's what I prefer. Not that start off in the bed is not. There's another guy that teaches it as well, like that. But I try to go for 100% success rate with guys that don't have, maybe they might not have multiple sessions with their girl. They might be able to try it 2 or 3 times, and I tell them, hey, I have a routine where I say, with your girl, tell her it's going to take a few sessions. Don't put all this pressure on one thing. Make an experience with your girl that you're learning about a vagina, even if it's just there's guys I have buddies of mine that they don't want the girl squirting, but they love that I'm going to massage that vagina and take care of my girl. I love it.
Yeah, and that's how it has to be. This is a loving act of service. Any man who goes to bed and makes a girl feel like she's obligated to give him a showing of how happy she is going to inspire her to fake an orgasm to get him to stop. It's some crazy bullshit. A girl who wants to learn to squirt will let you know. If she says, no, I'm afraid of that, you say, look, I'd like to try some stuff. We'll see. If you don't like it, we'll stop. If you like it, great. Let's just see.
Yeah.
The question about positions. I like standing on the edge of the bed.
Okay.
While the girl is lying on her back with her legs, with her knees on my shoulders, slightly lifting herself off the bed.
Missionary style?
Huh?
Is she like missionary style or dog
Well, except
style?
that her ass is at the edge of the bed, often supported by a pillow or two.
Yeah.
Her legs are cropped up like this over my shoulders. So if she were to, so she could lift herself off, and I will stand. So I stand on the edge of the bed, or if the bed is very low, I'll kneel.
Yeah.
So that I am able to consistently penetrate, and then I can flex my unit, but not everyone needs to be able to do this, so that I can get it into the position so that she'll get the stimulation that she needs.
Yeah.
With rear entry, you can put a little more into a girl, but there's not a gynecologist on earth who can't reach a woman's cervix with just his finger.
Yeah.
So since you can reach the cervix with a finger, it means you don't need anything bigger than a finger. So if you're worried about the size of your manhood, relax. My girl, whom I've been with for 20 years, was married to another woman before me. I never worried about whether I was better hung than her ex-wife.
Oh, that's funny.
Her ex-wife didn't need to have a bigger dick to get her off. And I've never needed a bigger dick than I've got. I love my penis. It's my best friend after her.
Yeah.
Anyway, fellas. Okay, so are there further questions?
Yeah, I gotta wrap this up, but if there are any final comments about anything we discussed in the duration of this panel, then let's go on for a few more minutes and finish up, and then
I'm going to make people's lives a little easier. If they're interested in following up on what I do, please go to successfulness.com. Spelled just like it sounds, successfulness.com. And you'll see a whole bunch of links to my YouTube page and all sorts of videos. I give away all my content. I'm very happy to meet with people to help them understand stuff because in the same way as if I were the professor who wrote the textbook, probably people would still have to come to the classes in order to get it. If they could get it on their own, I'd be just as happy. But my purpose in life is helping people understand. I am very happy to help people understand. I answer questions on Facebook every day. People reach out to me. I'm very happy to consult people directly. I also hold workshops, and I'm very happy to help people come to comfort, whether they come on their own or with their partner. It's the same fee. I am very happy to help people. With that said, since I want to answer questions, I can tell you that I could not answer all the questions people would ask in 100 of these sessions. So go ahead and ask whatever you got, because all I'm here to do is help you understand better if I can. So, Richard, is there something that you heard asked within the questions that were already asked, or things that you'd like to speak to that you perhaps didn't have a chance to because you arrived a little later?
Well,
How would you recommend for men
Yeah.
that they establish lasting longer in bed?
I'd say the Multi-Orgasmic Man, the book
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
wrote. I think that's
Not
absolutely
textbooks.
beginner
Very
101.
good.
And then I would learn. I do this a lot because, like, for guys that I had a lot of guys in the Philippines, where they were instead of going down on the girl or risking different things, I say, hey, you can use your fingers, you're good at squirting, sex is better, stuff like that. So for me, when I first got out there, I hadn't had sex in a while, and I went to the local toy store and I met this girl who was there 30 years doing. She was like a historian of stuff, had her own store. And I came to her with my issue, and I said, hey, I've had sex in a while. I don't know if I'm going to last very long. She says, the issue problem she's talking about toys. She says, don't worry about it so much. Like, get into a lot of foreplay. You're going to have sex with your girl right away. Like, you could do foreplay and get off for a while. Like, she goes, and if you do ejaculate early in a situation, have some toys. Like, just be like, if you shoot low by accident, just be cool about it. Don't be like, say, babe, I'm sorry. I'd be like, babe, that was unexpected. But good news is it's all about you. You know what I'm saying? So I think that two things kind of come to my mind. Learn how to make a squirt is good, because if it's in short-term relationships or one night stands or same night lays or whatever terminology you're using, right? It's safer. And also, you're going to give her, you have a superpower. You're going to give her something that she never had. You're going to give her a squirting orgasm that she just is going to blow her mind. You know what I'm saying? When she has that, guess what happens to the guys in relationships? They get they get a lot of callbacks.
I was about to say, fellas, you don't understand. If you go on a date with a girl and you sleep with her and she seems to have had a great time, and the next day you try and call her and she won't take your call or she doesn't respond to you, it's because she faked her orgasm, right? There's only one reason a girl calls you back is because she wants a repeat of what was going on. The truth is, many girls that you teach to squirt or that you help become comfortable with squirting, they may have squirted before. In many cases, they already know they're squirters.
Yeah.
They don't tell you this because they don't want to throw you off. They don't want to make you inhibited. But if they know that you know what you're doing, as soon as it becomes clear that you know what they're doing, they go, oh, thank goodness, you know what you're doing. We're going to have a great time. And they just don't want to be judged. You see, our world is full of men who judge women who have had lots of sex as somehow worse. And the truth of the matter is, I wouldn't go get my hair cut by a guy who'd just gotten his license to cut hair and had never cut hair before. I want to go to the guy who's got a great reputation, has been cutting people's hair for 30 years, and most of those people go back to him every time they need a haircut.
Right.
That is so true, because when a barber has fucked up my beard or something, I don't
You're
go
not
back.
going back. Exactly. You don't go to a
One
lawyer
shot, one
who's a
chance.
first-time lawyer. You go to a guy who's very well known for dealing with the kinds of things you need, who is a specialist. He does essentially the same job over and over again for as many people as need him to, each time doing a slightly better job, taking all of the things he's learned from all of his previous attempts. In the same way, that's how every professional exists. most of my long-term playmates have some experience as sex professionals. This is going to be clear not just because of my involvement in the adult industry, but because I'm very spoiled. I like the girls I go to bed with to look like they fell off the pages of 80s Hustler or Penthouse magazines or Playboy. And so they're going to be the sort of girls that have been propositioned 2,000 times a month.
Yeah.
And once in a while, had some guy who didn't seem like there was anything wrong with him, but he said, "Wow, you're gorgeous. I'd love to take you out." And they've gone, "Okay, sounds good." And they say, "Listen, I'm sure you've got some college loans or things, and I'd be happy to help you take care of those." And even though they were more than happy to fuck the guy for free, they're not going to turn away his money. And pretty soon they learn that this guy would feel guilty to his wife for fucking a girl just because he could. But if he pays for it, he doesn't feel his wife would be so upset.
Oh, I never thought of that. Because it's not emotional.
Especially if
right
he's Japanese.
Or where it's certainly true, it's endemic in the world. You find men who won't date a girl because they know that that's going to be upsetting to their partner. But if their wife found out they blew money on whores, their wife would make peace with it because she knew she wasn't being that sexually available.
now.
Okay.
Interesting.
So girls who are beautiful have a very high likelihood of accidentally found themselves in a situation where getting paid for sex suddenly seemed like a pretty good option. They didn't start going that way, but they discovered, well, they had blown the director to get that bit part in that movie that ended up on the cutting room floor anyway, and they did fuck that guy to get them that job at wherever law firm or whatever. So if they're so used to exchanging sexual favors for favors, it's not such a big deal to exchange sexual favors, particularly when they would do it for nothing, for some money. And so lots of my history with women has been with women who've actually discovered being paid for sex is only shameful if you accept it as shameful. And since they don't, they're proud of it. And I'm never worried if some guy comes up to me and says, "I've seen some of the girls you go to bed with. Sure, they're incredibly hot. And yes, I've seen them in the centerfolds of Penthouse or Playboy or whatever. But those are girls, they make their living fucking guys for money." I go, "Yeah, I don't pay them. They're happy to have sex with me for free. Am I supposed to feel bad about this?" Okay? They have the choice. These are women who always have the choice of who they go to bed with. I will always choose a person who's good enough at something to do it professionally, who does it with me because they like me. Okay? So, similar to that, most of the law firms have worked with me in the past 10 years have done it professional courtesy because we have great relationships. These are my friends. I may have helped them out in relationship problems or marriage problems or whatever. They're happy to do legal work for me because this is something they do well that they would normally be able to charge for. But
They do a barter system.
Right. Okay. The truth of the matter is, I'm all about, as I say, I'm the most selfish guy in the world. I do things because they make me feel good about me. Other people selfishly do things for me at no charge because it makes them feel good about them to be able to do something nice for me. Right. Similarly, I'm the least tolerant man you'll ever meet. I am universally intolerant. That is to say, for most people, they stupidly fail to understand that to tolerate something is to evaluate it and determine that it's no good, but give it a pass. To tolerate something is to find it unacceptable, but ignore that you find it unacceptable. I see no nobility in that. For me, I'm nearly universally accepting. If I can accept it, there's no problem. I don't need to do it that way. If it works for you and no one's being harmed, whatever, knock yourself out. So most people would think I'm incredibly tolerant, but there's no need to tolerate it because I don't object to it. As long as no one's being harmed against their will, I've got no. You're a dom. You tie women up and treat them badly. You starve them for 2 days. If this is what they're into, hey, no harm, no foul. As long as no one is not consenting, not my problem. I accept virtually everything. So without a narrow focus, it's easy to appear very tolerant, but I'm not actually tolerating it because it's not my business. I don't have to give it a pass or fail. Not for me, whatever, let it be. When there's something that I cannot accept, then either it goes or I go. No exceptions. Right?
It's a boundary, ultimately.
So I will not sleep with women married to men who do not know my first and last name. Okay? If you want to have sex with me outside of your marriage, I need to know that your husband knows and accepts.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not getting shot in the chest by some pissed off dude who imagines that I'm stealing the pussy he's paying for.
Right.
Right? Think about all the men who get angry at the other guy because their woman has chosen to go to bed with him.
Yeah.
You can't steal a human being. Human beings can't be possessions.
Yeah.
I do not want anyone ever to be involved with me where there is someone out there who imagines he owns them. So I'm very clear. I make it very clear. Every woman understands. This has been costly in some ways because some women will lie. They'll take off their wedding ring. They'll say, my husband knows. I say, great. I want to give him a call.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to give him a call. I want to make sure he knows where you are and he's not going to worry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we have an understanding. Great. I just want to make sure from him.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This is not about my trusting you. This is about satisfying myself.
I had a guy turn up. This was in London Underground, the subway.
Yep.
He just randomly found me, and during rush hour, in one of the busiest subway stations in the entire city, on like a weekday morning when everyone was going to work and everything like that. Not only did he identify who I was and just instantly pick me out from the crowd, but I was like, how the fuck did he even find me? It was crazy.
His girl tagged you for
Completely insane.
identification. she put a little radio transponder on your testicles. You haven't noticed it yet.
So that explains the bumps.
Very good. Very good.
Alrighty, I gotta leave it here. I gotta close it off. So if you guys can just make a quick outro, little message for where people can find you, learn more about your stuff, and then I'll have to end the stream.
Johnny,
Richard,
please.
please.
Well, I mean, there's the old adage, respect your elders. Like, you're the guru, you know a lot of stuff.
Okay. Then I'll just put it. I'll make it super simple. If you're looking for me, if you're looking for what I'm sharing, you could either look up my name, Johnny Soporno, but it's spelled the way it sounds, not with the M. It's JohnnySoporno.com, or you can go to successfulness.com. Or you can just type in Johnny Soporno on Google and you'll find literally thousands and thousands of hits. If you want to track me down, I'm easy to find. I'm not hiding from anybody. There are no angry husbands out there. Okay. And I'm very happy to hear from you. I offer both professional and social development work, and I'm very happy to be good at what I do. That's all I need to say about that. I'm also happy to be able to participate in this. If invited, I'll return for whatever next one you've got in mind, Ice. I love teaching men how to demonstrate those first three things, that they self-love, love and appreciate women, and that they're comfortable enough and confident enough to lead. Because men who show those things will always be arousing. Other people will stop and pay attention when there's a man there who looks like he knows he's got nothing left to prove. He's just doing what makes sense to himself. So if that's the kind of life that you would like to be able to have, either find it on your own, read my stuff, watch my videos, or if you need a little further help, give me a shout. Please, Richard.
All right, thank you, man. That's First of all, let me give a round of applause to both you guys, bro. I appreciate you, Ice.
And to you, brother.
Guys,
Thank you for being
honor.
here.
Thank you, guys. You guys, this was I remember this the rest of my life. This was an amazing day. So for me, I have a website at sexologyeducationalfilms.com. Sexologyeducationalfilms.com. And I have a research paper. It's still in a working process. You'll get a lot of information on some stuff. I have some articles on Kegel exercises. I have videos, but due to new rules, 20 states to the 50 have to have ID verification. It's not available at the moment. The videos, stuff that I have coming up, you'll see coming soon. There'll be probably at the end of summer, maybe a little sooner, hopefully. And I do hands-on training right now. So I have a life-size sex dummy that's 31 pounds, torso down. I can do it in person in Las Vegas, Clark County, stuff like that.
I'm delighted to know you have one. Please pump the shit out of it. I hadn't known you had that.
Do you have the other half?
No, I've got that in my place.
Well, currently
together.
I've had a 31-pound torso down, and I found one online that I'm going to get. So I'm going to start training some of my buddies, stuff like that. Get a little fluid for a couple of weeks, and then I'll start. I got the payment processor almost. It's a couple more days ready to go. So yeah, so I'll be doing like hands-on training in town, and then soon after I'll be doing a video where if you want to order, if you want to you want to do like a live class video, you want to buy that life-size sex dummy and the torso doll, I'll jump on my massage table, you get a massage table there, and I'll actually walk you through the whole process, get you the basics, stuff like that as well. So that's what I got right now coming, and the videos should be coming in at the latest, the end of the summer. And I have a bunch of rough draft stuff. So if you guys shoot me a link, I can send you some Google link, a Google link for Ice Whites, guys.
Sounds great.
All right, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Alrighty, thanks guys for coming. I think it'll be great to have a part 2 of this eventually. I normally do these once a month. I was away in Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile recently, so this one was delayed for a while. But I'll definitely want to have a part 2 of this. Still got a lot of questions to go through. The other thing I was gonna say, I remember now. I'm always forgetting like the last thing to say. Here it is. If you guys, it occurred to me in like the first hour, maybe I should upload this video on Pornhub. If that's a good idea, write it in the comments that I should upload it there, because that would be, apparently it has better monetization per 1,000 views than
Not just
YouTube.
that, it won't get demonetized. As long as there's nothing. Pornhub's a good company, good Canadians.
I seen that people are uploading like
device
math
verification.
classes to the platform and everything.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like, well,
Look,
this fits perfectly, pretty much.
Pornhub is a great place to mount your stuff, pardon the pun, if you don't want it to be taken down arbitrarily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just so long as you've got an audience for it, because you'll have to get them to show up on their own, or you're not going to have a lot of people who will randomly find their way to it. But fortunately, you already have an audience, so it makes it easy.
Page 72, or between 69 and 74, somewhere there. Alrighty,
wait,
guys, thanks for coming on.
Hang on. You know what follows 69, right?
What?
Coitus.
Of course. Well, ideally. Ideally.
Or what's the last sound a pubic hair makes before it hits the floor? Anyway.
Oh.
We used to call that muff diving. These young bucks don't know what that term means. We used to muff diving. It's
Or even carpet munching, because nobody has a carpet anymore.
Yeah, I remember that.
Thank you, Ice. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks,
And I'll be in touch with you following up from our conversation online earlier.
Can't wait.
Alrighty, catch you guys on the other side. Ending stream normally takes a few seconds.
All right.
Then you have to
Thanks,
shake
guys.
twice. Otherwise, the last drop will always get in your underwear.